Chapter 3456. After Chen Wei and Su Yun met and learned about the situation, Chen Wei's mind was much clearer. Now, they needed evidence of those people's crimes. This had to be done under unexpected circumstances. Drug enforcement was not as simple as it seemed. Evidence was needed. If there was no physical evidence, there would be no point in arresting someone. It was difficult to catch the person with the goods. After all they had to do was pour the goods into a sewer, or even pour a glass of water down, and everything would be gone. Sly Fox had also arranged for vigilant whistles around the hotel. If the police made a move, those people might destroy the goods. Faced with such a situation, Chen Wei calmly analyzed and made arrangements. The first thing they needed to do was to control the disguised waiter in the restaurant. That way, they could cut off the connection between the outside and the inside of the bar. Second, they needed Han Yen Air to make a large deal with the person. Only when the goods were taken out would it be easier to catch the thief. Third, they needed to act quickly. Chen Wei had confidence in the drug enforcement team. As long as they had enough foreshadowing, it would not be difficult to catch the person with the goods. Team leader Tu and Xiao Lu were in charge of dealing with the whistle outside. The two of them volunteered to take control of it. The most important task fell on Han Yen Er's shoulders. Chen Wei made detailed arrangements for her, and he needed Han Yen Er to conduct 2 probing trades. Only by making multiple transactions could she win the other party's trust. The rules had always been like this. Han Yen Er was lucky to have been able to buy the goods last time. If she immediately asked for a large amount of goods, the other party would be suspicious. If Han Yen Er made 2 small transactions and gained the other party's trust, she would be able to increase the price on the 3rd transaction to increase the temptation. During the last transaction, Su Yun and Lin Gu would pretend to be drunken customers and enter the protection area. First, to ensure Han Yen Er's safety. Second, to add the last layer of insurance for this mission. Even if Triangle Eyes and the others could escape from the police, it would be difficult for them to escape from Su Yun and Lin Ji's hands. With a detailed deployment, everyone had to get into their roles as soon as possible. When Su Yun returned from Chen Wei's place, it was already noon. Han Yen Er's body was almost fully recovered. Bai Xiaoye didn't reveal that she knew Han Yen Er at all. She pretended that she didn't know anything and invited Han Yen Er to dinner. Of course, Han Yen Er didn't refuse. In order to thank Bai Xiaoye for her kindness, Han Yen Er invited her to a famous seafood restaurant on Qingdao. After the two finished their meal and returned to the hotel, they coincidentally bumped into Su Yun, who had just returned. When Su Yun heard that he had missed out on a seafood feast, he felt a little regretful. After all, he was still hungry. Bai Xiaoye quickly asked the kitchen to make a big bowl of seafood noodles for Su Yun. Although the seafood in the seafood restaurant outside was amazing, the seafood noodles in the Sky Entertainment Hotel were enough to make people drool. After Su Yun finished eating, he went back to Han Yen Er's room with her. Su Yun had to tell Han Yen Er about Chen Wei's arrangements in detail. As far as the current situation was concerned, Han Yen Er was the most dangerous and most difficult person on the mission. After all, it was very difficult to gain her 100% trust in a short period of time. Therefore, Su Yun was still a little worried. However, Han Yen Er was an actress after all. Her psychological endurance was obviously stronger than ordinary people. She had also acted before, so she had a certain level of acting skills. Finally, Han Yen Er was really a drug addict, which obviously gave her an advantage. The eyes of criminals who soaked in drugs all day were actually very sharp. They could often tell at a glance whether a person was a real drug addict or not. If it was a disguise, it would be easy for them to see through it. Han Yen Er, on the other hand, wasn't worried about that. The reason why they had sold her the Ma Gu was because they could tell from her mental state that she was a person with real needs. That was why they were willing to take the risk and sell to her. Su Yun explained the detailed arrangements to Han Yen Er. After hearing it, Han Yen Er was still very nervous. She also realized that the key to this mission was her. It's your first time doing something like this. It's inevitable that you're nervous. Su Yun comforted her. If you have any questions, just tell me. I will only know how to help you if you tell me. Han Yen shook her head. On the last day of the mission, you will be there to protect me. I'm not afraid. Although I admire your courage, there is one thing I have to tell you. If you say you're not afraid, you're lying to yourself. Su Yun said, once it's time for the mission, anything can happen. I'll tell you the worst-case scenario. If the location needs to be changed, I won't be able to continue protecting you. Han Yen's expression froze. Obviously, she was very concerned about losing Su Yun's protection. Then, what's the possibility? Han Yen asked carefully. Su Yun shook his head. I don't know. Maybe 50%. If they really make that kind of request, do I have to go with them? Han Yen froze. Su Yun nodded. If you refuse them, you will immediately be suspected. Once you are suspected, our entire plan will be ruined. That's why I said your mission is very important. I'm worried. Han Yen was silent. Faced with this situation, she really did not know what to do. At this time, Han Yen not only had to worry about her own safety, but also the outcome of the mission. Whether it was her personal safety or the mission failing because she didn't do a good job, she didn't want to see either. Once you can't calm your heart down, it will be difficult to make any further progress. Su Yun's expression was still calm. I will give you enough time to think about it. If you regret it now, you can tell me. I won't force you to do something you don't want to do. This was a matter of human rights. If Han Yen was not prepared for the mission, the possibility of failure would be higher. Su Yun didn't want to fail the mission, and then he and Lin Gu had to use some unconventional means to deal with those people. That would be too disrespectful to the law. I don't regret it. I will never regret my choice. Han Yen shook her head. I just need some time to digest it. I don't think it's forced. Su Yun smiled. No matter what, you have to follow your heart and make decisions according to your thoughts. Okay. I will. Han Yen's answer was very serious. I followed my heart because I wanted to give myself a new start and a new opportunity. This matter is meaningful to you, and it is also meaningful to me. I also want to use this matter to say goodbye to my past self. Su Yun was stunned for a moment. Using destruction, the thing that destroyed you, to start a brand new self. Very good, very good. I hope you can do it. I will. I definitely will. Han Yen gritted her teeth and nodded. If I can't even do this, I really don't have the face to stand in front of you. President Su, I can see that you have been sorry for involving me in this. In fact, you don't have to be sorry. I should thank you for involving me in this. Haha, I didn't ask you to get involved in this. You got involved, as soon as you arrived on Qingdao. Su Yun smiled bitterly. I got involved because of you. Han Yen also smiled awkwardly. Then I was wrong. It was because of me that you got into trouble with me. I'm sorry. It was also because of you that we had the opportunity to get rid of such a criminal gang so quickly. I don't blame you for involving me in this trouble at all. Instead, I thank you. Seeing that Han Yen was less stressed than before, Su Yun was relieved. Think about it. Let's have dinner together. I want to hear your thoughts. Okay. Han Yen nodded. Then I'll go back to the company first. There are still some things I need to deal with. Su Yun, call me later. Chapter 3457. After Su Yun arrived at the company, the secretarial department sent over 2 documents for him to look over and sign. They said that these were the emails that Zhuo Meiyan had just sent over. It was about the details of her trip to Beijing to discuss the cooperation. Although she felt that it was feasible, she was not confident enough, so she wanted Su Yun to take a look. Su Yun always had a headache when faced with this kind of thing. He always felt that it was normal for Zhuo Meiyan to take a look at things that he wasn't sure about. It would be weird if Zhuo Meiyan asked him to take a look at things that she wasn't sure about. Zhuo Meiyan's actions were quite obvious. Her goal was very direct. She wanted Su Yun to take over more and more of Sky Entertainment Group's affairs. Although there were some things that were quite troublesome for Su Yun to do, Zhuo Meiyan believed that she would become more and more proficient in these things. She didn't want Su Yun to become dependent on her right now. This wasn't something that a big boss of a corporation should have. Only when Su Yun slowly got rid of his dependence on Zhuo Meiyan could he truly become a big boss of a company. There was still a long way to go. Su Yun still needed to adapt. Zhuo Meiyan obviously couldn't wait. She knew very well that she couldn't wait to help Su Yun become the biggest boss in Sky Entertainment Group. Only when Su Yun could become the real boss of Sky Entertainment Group could she fulfill her promise to Zhang Tai-sui. Zhuo Meiyan knew very well that she could betray anyone in this life, but she could never betray Zhang Tai-sui. Therefore, she had to fulfill Zhang Tai-sui's last wish. Zhang Tai-sui's last wish was very clear. He hoped that Su Yun could leave the army as soon as possible and get away from all the messy disputes in the underground world as soon as possible. He didn't want to bring trouble to himself because of those unnecessary things. Zhang Tai-sui, with his rich experience, knew very well that many things in a person's life were empty. Many things that you thought were important were actually meaningless. Zhang Tai-sui didn't even care about protecting the country, which was the most important thing in Su Yun's heart. It was not that he didn't think the country was important, but he felt that even if Su Yun didn't do it, someone else would. Zhang Tai-sui knew all too well how much Su Yun's father had sacrificed for the country, so he had always felt that the Su family had done enough for the country. No one in Huaxia had the right to say that they had done enough for the country, but Su Yun had. Su Yun didn't care about those messy disputes and false reputations in the underground world. Zhang Tai-sui was not worried about this. In this aspect, Su Yun and his father were very similar. Su Yun's father was also the same kind of person. He didn't care about the false reputation outside. He didn't care about the #1 expert, the realm of transcendence, or the title. Zhang Tai-sui wasn't worried about this, so he didn't worry too much about it. The only thing he was worried about was whether Su Yun could really leave the army. Therefore, Zhuo Meiyan knew very well that among the few things that Zhang Tai-sui regretted all day long, the first was always him sending Su Yun to the Dragon Brigade. Because Zhang Tai-sui hadn't left the power struggle in the underground world, he didn't want Su Yun to be deaf and blind in such an environment. If he became a competitive guy, Zhang Tai-sui wouldn't have the face to see Su Chen. At that time, Zhang Tai-sui did something that he regretted very much 10 years later. He sent Su Yun to the Dragon Brigade. When Zhang Tai-sui regretted it, he couldn't directly pull Su Yun out. First of all, state secrets didn't allow him to do so. Although no one could stop him, it was too unfair to Wan Guangxiao and Wang Yi. It was the same as playing with them and stabbing them in the back. Zhang Tai-sui definitely wouldn't do something like that. So in the end, Su Yun stayed in the Dragon Brigade. For a long time, Su Yun became more and more trapped, unable to extricate himself. In the end, Zhang Tai-sui didn't think too much about it because he believed that Su Yun would be like his father. Sooner or later, he would be fired by the country because of something. But when that day came, Zhang Tai-sui couldn't see it anymore. He guessed one thing correctly, but not the other. Su Yun had indeed been fired by the brigade due to his impulsive personality. However, he didn't lose heart because of this incident. He actually went back for no reason. Although Su Yun was now in the Sky Entertainment Group and not the Dragon Brigade, Zhuo Meiyan knew that Su Yun's heart was in the Dragon Brigade. He didn't spend all of his time on the Sky Entertainment Group. So, Zhuo Meiyan controlled everything that happened in the Sky Entertainment Group. But if she felt that it was necessary to make Su Yun more responsible for something, she would deliberately increase the difficulty for Su Yun. For example, Zhuo Meiyan wanted Su Yun to focus more on the Sky Entertainment Group. After all, Zhuo Meiyan didn't know what happened in Qingdao. If she knew that Han Yen-er, who they brought back from Korea, was a drug addict, she would have gone crazy. Compared to Su Yun, Zhuo Meiyan's tolerance was much lower. Especially when it came to people who she misjudged, Zhuo Meiyan's anger came faster than most people's. Over the years, there were many people who had experienced her temper at Sky Entertainment. Some of the people who had signed with Sky Entertainment had become arrogant. Whether it was those who were arrogant, self-centered, or those who were arrogant to the media and the public, they had all been scolded by Zhuo Meiyan. As for those who got help from the Sky Entertainment Group but still went down the road of no return, if it weren't for the law, Zhuo Meiyan might have killed them herself. Although Su Yun knew what Zhuo Meiyan was thinking, he still carefully read the document that Zhuo Meiyan sent over. This document was clearly written in great detail. It stated all the benefits of cooperating with the other party, as well as the small difficulties that might arise after cooperating with the other party. As for the cost of the cooperation with the other party, it was written in great detail and could be said to be very clear. The relationship between the advantages and disadvantages of such an investment was very clear. Zhuo Meiyan didn't ask Su Yun to consider and analyze this because she knew that Su Yun wasn't mature enough in this area. Even if she asked Su Yun to do it, it would be difficult for Su Yun. Now that the results were clearly in front of Su Yun, as the boss of the company, he had to make a decisive judgment. This kind of judgment seemed like a small matter, but it determined the future of the company. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that any small decision could affect the development of the company for the next 3 to 5 years. Although the Sky Entertainment Group was now the #1 film and entertainment company in the country, almost all of the new films they invested in received good returns and profits. Of course, there was no lack of garbage that was surrounded by big directors, which affected their reputation. This was the case in the industry. Some small film and television companies were tricked into making a few bad films, and their entire company was basically destroyed. The survival rate of bad films was an important factor that determined how long a company could last. It was also an important factor that determined how long a company like the Sky Entertainment Group could stand in the position of the leader. Su Yun's judgment now was to ensure that Su Yun's future films could ensure that the development of the Sky Entertainment Group could maintain a healthy operation and remain the #1 film and television company in the country. It wasn't easy to be in an industry, but it was even harder to be the leader of an industry. If one didn't have a relatively decisive judgment, it would be very difficult to be the leader of an industry like this. Zhuo Meiyan didn't do all this to make things difficult for Su Yun, and she didn't want to make things difficult for Su Yun. However, if she wanted Su Yun to grow into a qualified manager and leader, this was something she had to go through. Only by going through this could Su Yun grow, and Zhuo Meiyan could be considered to have fulfilled Zhang Taisui's last wish. This was the only thing she had to do in this lifetime, otherwise she wouldn't have the face to see Zhang Taisui in the underworld after 100 years. Of course, Zhuo Meiyan also hoped that Su Yun would be able to get away from those messy things as soon as possible. Although this was a very difficult task, Zhuo Meiyan had never thought of giving up. Zhang Taisui had always hoped that Su Yun would leave the Divine Dragon Brigade and not get involved in the matters of the underground world. In fact, there was only one simple reason. Once involved in these two aspects, no matter how powerful an expert was, they would not live long. Chapter 3458. Zhang Taisui himself was an example. At that time, he already owned the Sky Entertainment Group, an entertainment empire, but he was still involved in the underground world. In the end, because of a title that seemed meaningless now, he was hurt and his health and lifespan was affected. Otherwise, with Zhang Taisui's physical fitness, it wouldn't be too exaggerated, but it definitely wouldn't be a problem for him to live 3 or 4 times longer than a normal person. But martial arts experts, their physical fitness and bodily functions were stronger than ordinary people in all aspects. Prolonging one's lifespan was the most basic thing. As long as it was an ordinary martial arts expert, if they kept themselves clean, avoided disputes, and only lived to strengthen their body, it would be easy for them to live over 100 years. It was a pity that those who had the strength of martial arts experts would always do things that were different from ordinary people because of their talent in this aspect. At this time, people's mentality would become completely different. Take the most ordinary masters as an example. Some of them were lucky enough to be able to make themselves famous in the world of sports by playing boxing matches and fighting. They would then find a peer of similar fame and discuss it with them. They would organize a competition with gimmicks such as the Battle of the Century. The prize money would be hundreds of millions of US dollars. It didn't matter if they won or lost. Everyone would happily flaunt their wealth on the internet, happy and mischievous. But as long as they participated in fighting, their bodies would definitely be injured, and these injuries would also have an impact on their later years. Therefore, although martial arts experts could strengthen their bodies and prolong their lifespan, almost none of them could really live for a long time. The people who participated in this competition were all very beginner-level martial arts experts. Once they were a little more powerful, they would be hired by rich people or rich organizations. Although this was a job that made a lot of money, it was all dangerous work. Almost all martial arts experts of this level would die an unnatural death. Once they became martial arts experts like Zhang Tai-sui, they would fight in the underground world for fame. This kind of peak battle almost determined life and death, and even the winner would be seriously injured. Therefore, any contest at this time would result in both sides suffering. This was why Zhang Tai-sui didn't want Su Yun to be involved with anything in the underground world. He was sure that given Su Yun's temper and character, he could never stand being provoked for a few times. If someone provoked him once, he might ignore it. If someone provoked him twice, he might tolerate it. If someone provoked him 3 times, he might tolerate it due to some circumstances and concerns. However, if someone dared to provoke him for the 4th time, he was definitely seeking for death. Therefore, Zhang Tai-sui dared to conclude that if Su Yun was in the underground world, he would definitely be like his father, a warmonger who would not refuse anyone. Sooner or later, he would be at a disadvantage. As for why he didn't want to be involved with the army, Zhang Tai-sui naturally didn't need to explain. Back then, Su Chen was involved with the Dragon Brigade, and in the end, didn't he get into trouble because of the Dragon Brigade? Once he was involved with the army, things that were originally simple could become complicated, and things that were originally complicated could also become simple. However, he had to bear something called principles on his back. And things like principles would make people feel very uncomfortable. This was very uncomfortable. If he had to be cautious when doing some simple things, wouldn't that leave a huge loophole for others to exploit? Wasn't Su Chen's current situation not because of the Dragon Brigade? To put it bluntly, Zhang Tai-sui hated the Dragon Brigade very much. If it wasn't because Wang Yi was in the Dragon Brigade, and if it wasn't because of Wan Guangxiao's face, he wouldn't have given the Dragon Brigade any face back then. Zhang Tai-sui was very sure that Su Yun was a small tree that needed to be fixed. However, he didn't expect that after sending Su Yun over, he would be fixed too straight. This was something that he couldn't accept. It was a pity that he couldn't convince Su Yun to quit at that time. Now, there was even less of a chance, because Su Yun was already lying in the underworld. Only Zhuo Meiyan could help him complete this idea. As Zhang Tai-sui's successor, Zhuo Meiyan dragged Su Yun out of a place where he shouldn't be. Perhaps this was the only thing she could do for Zhang Tai-sui. A few years ago, Zhuo Meiyan couldn't see any hope at all, but in the past 2 years, she felt more and more that this matter was reliable. Now, Zhuo Meiyan saw hope in Su Yun, and this hope was becoming more and more obvious. After Su Yun finished reading the entire proposal, he was very satisfied. After weighing the pros and cons, he felt that this was definitely the right thing to do. For the sake of Sky Entertainment Group's development, it didn't matter if the initial investment was a bit bigger. Some things might not be immediately reaped in return, but they could make substantial leaps and bounds in an industry. That was enough. Su Yun wasn't a businessman who was eager for quick success. He didn't have a clear idea of how to make money. Moreover, Sky Entertainment Group had already formed its own economic and profit-making system. None of this was something that Su Yun needed to consider. Therefore, Su Yun chose to sign the proposal without hesitation. His reply to Zhuo Meiyan was that no matter the price, they had to sign the contract for the core technology. Then, they had to master and learn it as quickly as possible. Once China had its own technology, all of this would no longer be a problem. Right now, Huaxia lacked this kind of learning opportunity. As a nation with the strongest learning ability, Su Yun believed that as long as they were given enough time, Sky Entertainment Group's technology department would be able to learn all of the advanced foreign technology. By that time, Sky Entertainment Group would have the power to challenge any film and entertainment company in the world. Even the big 3 of Hollywood wouldn't dare to underestimate Huaxia, right? However, in the end, all of this had to start from the basics. A good script was the driving force behind everything. This industry was obviously Hua Xia's weakness. Hua Xia's best scriptwriter could only be described as SOSO among Hollywood scriptwriters. How many scriptwriters could be directly labeled as trash? The reason was simple. Scriptwriters didn't make money, so the industry was so depressed. No matter how good an actor or a production unit was, if they didn't have the best script, the film would be trash. However, the low income of scriptwriters didn't allow them to have a better creative environment. It didn't allow them to have a better creative drive and source. What could they use to create? The salary of a super A-list actor could take away more than half of the investment of the entire film. All kinds of expenses were needed. In the end, the scriptwriter's money might be a pitiful living expenses. Look at the treatment of Hollywood scriptwriters, look at the treatment of European scriptwriters, and even look at the treatment of Japanese and Korean scriptwriters. They were completely on the same level as Hua Xia. Scriptwriters in other places were high-class workers, but in Hua Xia, they were low-class workers. There was no reason for this. Su Yun had actually already started to prepare for this. He had started to effectively control the scriptwriter industry. He believed that as long as he gave scriptwriters a good working environment, they would be able to create good stories. Moreover, there shouldn't be too many restrictions on scriptwriters. Unfortunately, there was no way to solve this problem under the national environment. Once this problem could be solved, it might usher in a renaissance of the literary era. If even some of the articles written by Mr. Lu Xun were to be banned, then what else could be written in this era? In the whole of Hua Xia, there was only one Lu Xun Institute of Literature. However, Mr. Lu Xun's articles were kicked out of the teaching materials. Was it really because the characters he wrote had appeared in this society? Yes, they had really appeared. Kong Iji had been resurrected, and with a thesis titled, "There are 4 ways to write the character Hui," he had been promoted to a professor, transformed into a scholar, and changed into a master of sinology. He no longer stole books on tenterhooks, but calmly stole articles on the internet. Not only could he comfortably warm a bowl of wine, but he could also use the temptation of a doctorate director to play the unspoken rules with E. The poor lackeys of the capitalists had also been resurrected. They put on the hats of experts and beggars, but they still saw that all the rich were docile, and all the poor were barking. They pretended to play some number games, advocating the inevitability and rationality of the price convergence with the American empire and the wage convergence with the African continent. In this kind of environment, even Mr. Lu Xun had no way out, let alone the scriptwriters of Hua Xia. If they were not allowed to write, then what was the point of writing? Thus, he could only write crude novels to earn a living. The regret of literature was that the most basic things were restricted and imprisoned. If there was no freedom of speech, how could an article have a soul? Chapter 3459. In this situation where there were so many shackles, the only thing most people could do was compromise. Therefore, Su Yunxian brought in all the advanced techniques from abroad. Once a talented actor appeared, Sky Entertainment Group would be able to make the best use of him. So, Su Yun agreed with some of Zhua Meiyan's methods. Zhua Meiyan didn't expect Su Yun to make such a decisive decision. From this point, Zhua Meiyan realized that Su Yun was more mature than before. In the face of decisive matters, Su Yun could make decisions without hesitation. This was the most important aspect of being more mature. After taking care of some matters, Su Yun called Lin Gu to the office and told him that Han Yen was ready to be used. They had to be prepared to enter the mission state at any time. Although Lin Ji's first impression of Han Yen wasn't bad, he still felt uneasy about her misdeeds. "Brother, are you sure you want to trust her?" "I have no reason not to. Su Yun, I gave her a chance and she grasped it. If I didn't trust her, I wouldn't have given her a chance." "But I know your temper. Even if she did something that you can trust, you don't believe that she can completely get rid of that thing," Lin Gu said. "After all, if you're infected with that thing, you're basically useless. I don't have much trust in her future, but in this case, I have no reason to doubt her." "Su Yun, you don't have to worry about that. I believe I'm right about her." Lin Gu saw that Su Yun was very certain, so he didn't say anything else. "As long as you trust her." I will cooperate. I have another problem that I'm worried about right now. We don't have a plan B. Su-yun, if the other party wants to change the location of the transaction with Han Yen on the same day, we'll be left in the bar. We won't be able to leave. Lin Ge was also stunned for a moment. Needless to say, they definitely couldn't leave after going there. If we do anything else, we'll immediately be suspected. When that happens, we'll directly destroy the deal. If they become suspicious, our mission will have failed. Su-yun knew the result. We only have this one chance. The other party is cunning and experienced. Once they sense the slightest danger, they'll escape. When that happens, it'll be even harder to catch them. Isn't this plan perfect? Lin Ge, even if they change the location of the transaction, by then, Director Chen's people will control the environment. There will be other people following them. They won't be able to escape. There is only one plan. I don't have a plan. Su-yun shook his head. I need a plan B. With us personally participating in plan B, I can only be at ease if things are always under our control. I don't want Triangle Eyes to leave my sight. Lin Ge frowned. Brother, do you feel something? You can feel it even without saying. There's something different in Triangle Eye's eyes. Su-yun, that's a gaze that only the most vicious people have. He's not only killed people, but he's tortured them to death. So, he's an extremely dangerous guy. At this time, Lin Ge understood what Su-yun meant. Triangle Eyes was very likely to be a cruel person. Without a plan B, once things changed, Han Yen would become the only hostage in the other party's hands. At that time, Han Yen would be in a very dangerous situation. The final result was that the criminal gang would be subdued at the expense of Han Yen. Although this kind of sacrifice often happened when arresting drug dealers, the target was different. Han Yen was a girl who could even resist her drug addiction in order to help Su-yun. Although this kind of perseverance was only once, it was already an extraordinary existence. After all, Su-yun had never seen anyone who could do this kind of thing. Because of Han Yen-er's behavior, Su-yun even denied a principle he had always believed. When a drug addiction kicked in, Su-yun was 100% sure that this was the case. After seeing this many times, he didn't have much hope. But Han Yen-er broke this rule. With this, Su-yun wouldn't let Han Yen-er really be in danger. Brother, I'm not that smart, Lin Ge said apologetically. I really can't think of a good plan B to carry out. Su-yun was also having a headache. If he had a plan B, things wouldn't be like this now. In such a situation, there seemed to be no plan B that could be involved. But if he did, he could only push Han Yen-er into danger. Although Han Yen-er was willing, Su-yun really couldn't bear to do it. It was obvious that he wanted to use Han Yen-er, and Han Yen-er was willing to be used. Han Yen-er wasn't willing to do anything for the police, but she was willing to do it for Su-yun. Su-yun knew this too well, and the more it was like this, the more guilty he felt. After a long period of silence, an idea suddenly flashed through Su-yun's mind. Since it was difficult to carry out a plan B once the mission started, why didn't they directly carry out a plan B from the beginning? As long as they carried out a plan B from the beginning, whether they stayed to make the deal or left to make the deal, they could leave a gap for Su-yun to cut in. That would be enough. But what kind of plan B could be carried out from the beginning? It was a headache. Su-yun racked his brain but couldn't think of a good plan, which made him feel particularly anxious. Lin Ge couldn't help, and he was a little unhappy. But at this time, the only thing he could do was to divert Su-yun's attention and not make him feel so uncomfortable. Sometimes, the more you wanted to come up with a solution to a problem, the more you couldn't think of a good way. The more you thought about it, the more anxious you became, and in the end, it would be fruitless. It was better to relax his mind. In a relaxed state, it might be easier to have inspiration. Most of the time, those perfect plans often appeared in a flash of inspiration. Brother, drink some tea. Lin Ge handed the tea to Su-yun. Now, the better a person's life is, the easier it is to fall into this temptation. It seems that people really can't live too comfortably. Many people even think that it's a pity that they don't take drugs when they have such good conditions. People who have such thoughts often don't touch drugs. Soo-yoon shook his head. Yes, there is such a person. You remember the company that has been competing with us in terms of assets and qualifications last year, always snatching resources for us? One of their artists got addicted because she thought her conditions were too good, Lin-gu said. Soo-yoon thought about it and nodded. I know who you are talking about. Originally, she was such a good seedling, beautiful, good-looking, and acting skills. The company did its best to package her, but in the end, because she got addicted to drugs, the company kicked her out. After half a year of drug rehabilitation, she didn't seem to have any intention of turning over a new leaf. Because all the money was lost to the company, she even sold her house for drug money. Lin-gu shook his head helplessly. A good person was ruined. No matter how expensive the house is, it's not enough to torture. Soo-yoon sighed. That's true. Lin-gu said. The money she got from selling a house in San Juan was enough for her to torture herself. In less than half a year, it was all gone. It said that now, for the sake of that drug, she would rather sleep with someone else and become a slave at the feet of some rich people. Soo-yoon frowned. That was a very good seedling. If she grasped herself well, she would definitely sit firmly in the country's A-list. As long as the company put in more effort, she could even be promoted to the A-list position. She only needed to be in the headlines for half a year, and she would be able to sit in the position of a popular goddess. Who would have thought that a popular actress who was on the rise would actually be infected with that kind of thing? In just a year, she had fallen rapidly, like a meteorite crashing into the bottom of the sea and disappearing without a trace. She had entered an abyss that she would never be able to climb out of. The only path left for her to escape was death. Pitiful, really pitiful. For the sake of that terrible desire, she became a prostitute. In a year, who would believe such a huge difference? It was really a pity. Chapter 3460. Just as Lin-gu was trying to use some digressions to relieve the pressure on Soo-yoon's mind, Soo-yoon suddenly raised his head with an overjoyed expression on his face. That's right, it was the identity of an escort. If they could make good use of this identity, then Soo-yoon and Lin-gu could also legitimately get an identity to stand in front of Triangle Eyes and the others. This was a plan B that could be used from the beginning. I have an idea. Soo-yoon smiled. I can totally use the identity of a companion inhaler you mentioned. Lin-gu still hadn't reacted. What do you mean? Escort identity? Lend it to who? Soo-yoon. Lend it to Han Yen-air, of course. And we are the boss who paid her. Do you understand what I mean? Lin-gu nodded in realization. So that was what Brother Yoon meant. Because it was very natural. In today's material age, it was not strange for such a professional girl to appear. Many of the escorts were even transferred from the periphery. This was simply an evolution from an angel to a demon. Because many people started out as beautiful young models, beautiful, sunny, cute, and otaku killers. Take the current modeling industry for example. Anyone who just entered the industry was believed to be a clean, good girl. They all had the dream and ambition to wear Victoria's Secret angel wings. But once they entered the industry, almost all the models received the most inquiries, not inspirational questions such as, "What are your dreams?" but direct questions such as, "Do you want to be an outsider?" Some young and naive girls who just entered the industry didn't even know what an outsider was. The contact person would directly make it clear that it was a paid service to accompany people to eat and sleep. Then all kinds of price lists would be sent directly, such as 5,000 for eating and sleeping, 20,000 for eating and sleeping a day, 30,000 for 2 days, 70,000 for 8 days, and so on. To put it bluntly, an outsider was a dirty model. To put it nicely, they were called business models. A group of girls who would make ordinary girls feel that God was unfair. However, if their real lives were exposed, many ordinary girls would no longer be envious of them. Yes, on the surface, they drove luxury cars, lived in villas, and had so many designer bags that they could hold an exhibition. They wandered in the circle of the rich and received tens of thousands of roses on Valentine's Day. In their selfies, they would always have big eyes, sharp chins, and innocent faces, and they would always have to add a sentence of chicken soup for the soul. They were all verified by Weibo as models, actresses, and singers. But in reality, no one had ever seen them act in a movie or release an album. How do you make money? If it weren't for the exposure of the grand feast of the sea and sky, perhaps very few people would know what the periphery was. Those who were familiar with this identity were all people in their circle, accompanying them to eat, sleep, and poison. The most direct thing was that the stronger the taste, the higher the price. Some informal entertainment agencies would specially train a group of business models. They liked to take business jobs because it was easy to earn money. In their words, it was a fast job that cost $5,000 a day, and it was done in one go. Slow jobs cost $10,000 to $20,000, and it was unknown how many times they were done in one night. This industry didn't require a degree or anything else. It only required a sweet mouth and a good alcohol tolerance. Those who had a good alcohol tolerance, knew how to play dice, and knew how to play games would definitely be popular. And those who had a good personality, a sweet mouth, and often called brother, were especially popular among the nouveau riche. These girls had very open values. To put it bluntly, they thought that it was the same no matter who they slept with. Those heavy Russian roulette, eel start and end, depth bombs, these girls dared to play. The way these games were played could be said to be appalling. But in this materialistic society, for the sake of money, many girls couldn't control themselves. They always felt that these things were done when they were young, and as time passed, they slowly forgot. The nouveau riche would use them as tools to play, not just to accompany them to eat, sleep, and play heavy games. In the end, there would even be people who would accompany them to take drugs. The bigger the game, the higher the price. This was definitely an identity that could be used. I'll ask Director Chen now if we can get involved in this Plan B. Su-Yun, we'll lay out Plan B from the beginning. If it's a normal transaction, then we won't do anything. But if she wants to leave, then we'll act according to the situation. After all, Plan B will make the other party believe that we're drug addicts from the beginning. Lin Gu nodded. He would do whatever Su-Yun said. He would do as Su-Yun said. Su-Yun didn't dare to delay. He immediately called Chen Wei and told him about the situation. After Chen Wei heard about it, he was very impressed by Su-Yun's ability to adapt. He was very shocked. This was indeed a method that could be used. Because just last year, Qingdao handled a case that involved such an organization. There was a person called Datu In who had many beautiful girls under his control. These girls would usually help him deliver drugs. They would also take drugs with his customers. However, those who took drugs would have to provide such services in the end. This wasn't a secret and didn't need to be said. One of the girls under Datu In looked like a female celebrity from Japan. She usually drove a BMW sports car and had several houses in Qingdao. The only thing she did was to post sexy selfies on WeChat and act cute. A beautiful girl who was only 20 years old had such a glamorous life that people envied. When Chen Wei and the others first started investigating this girl, no one had expected her background to be like this. She had actually used such a method to get her money back. This was because Datu In had solid evidence. He was a famous drug addict in Qingdao. He had a good reputation of giving away drugs after buying them. Therefore, many people liked to trade with him. In the wee hours of the morning, Chen Wei took charge of the situation and destroyed Datu Yin's organization in one fell swoop. They were a criminal organization that sold drugs and sex. They also took in more than 10 suspects. Among them, there were 8 ice girls who provided drugs and sex services. There were 3 delivery men and 3 lookouts. At the same time, 2 customers who were taking drugs were arrested. The organizer and mastermind of the gang, Daddy In Datu, was also arrested in this operation. Datu In was in this line of work because he had met some models in the early days. He had also accumulated some connections in that circle. They were all successful businessmen and successful private business owners. Slowly, Datuine discovered that when these animals in human clothing looked for model girls, they would pay a high price and make requests for the girls to play with them. One of the requests was for them to take drugs and take drugs with them. If they agreed, they would be paid several times more than usual. Model girls all had common hobbies, such as branded bags, branded clothes, and branded cosmetics. Therefore, their daily expenses were getting bigger and bigger. It was difficult to satisfy their desire for material things by relying on modeling and occasionally sleeping with them. Therefore, many girls fell into this abyss. At that time, Datuine had an idea. Since he had connections with rich customers and many girls who were willing to do such things for money, why didn't he take control of this matter? Then, Datuine started this business. He took control of the source of drugs and the girls who dared to take drugs with him. This way, he controlled the market. Buying drugs from Datuine was not cheap at all. His price could be said to be more than 5 times higher. His price was even more than 10 times higher than some nouveau riche. This was because he was aiming for the high-end market. He paid special attention to after-sales service. Datuine's drugs were delivered to 5-star hotels in the province. Every time someone bought drugs from him, no matter how much they bought, he would arrange for these beautiful girls to deliver the drugs to them. These girls were young, beautiful, and had good figures. They had breasts, buttocks, and faces. Datuine packaged these ice girls as so-called print models to the outside world. These girls not only delivered drugs, but they also satisfied the customers' requests to take drugs with them and provide all kinds of services with heavy tastes. If the customers liked a certain girl, they could also designate a delivery girl. Therefore, many of Datuine's customers liked delivery girls, so they kept buying drugs from him. It did not matter if his price was ridiculously high. After all, his customers were rich. As for the girls under his control, it depended on their own ability. Datuine would only provide them with a platform. As for how much money they could get, it all depended on their own ability. As long as they knew how to seduce men, they would be able to buy a nice big house in Qingdao within 1 or 2 years. As for those who didn't know how to seduce men, they would be eliminated within 1 or 2 years. The eliminated girls who were addicted to drugs were desperate. For a little drug money, they would do anything. There were even prostitutes who went to shampoo houses on the streets. Chapter 3461. Qin Wei had learned more about this profession after that incident. Professional drug addicts were ice girls. Therefore, when Su Yun proposed this role, Chen Wei immediately agreed. This wasn't a fabrication. It was a real group of people. Moreover, this group of people was no stranger to these drug traffickers. Chen Wei felt bitter when he thought of these poor girls who had been tricked into the abyss because they were young and inexperienced. The reputation of a model 10 years ago was completely different from the reputation of a model now. Nowadays, at any class reunion or friend gathering, if someone said that she was a model, everyone's eyes would be filled with envy. The girls' eyes would be filled with disdain and surprise, and the men's eyes would be filled with ambiguity and wretchedness. Many people looked at the modeling industry through colored glasses. It was all thanks to the dirty affairs of the outside girls. Even now, there were still girls who jumped into the abyss without hesitation because they imagined that as long as they were wearing the clothes of a model or an actress, even if it was just a physical business, they would be able to marry a rich businessman sooner or later and live the life of a rich wife. These fantasies didn't even appear in movies. It was simply impossible. No man would marry a woman who was bought with money. The best ending for these girls was to be a mistress. They couldn't even be considered a mistress. They could only be regarded as a mistress. Rich old men would give them apartments to live in. Unless they were very rich, they would be willing to buy a house. Perhaps they would buy a car that cost at least 300,000 yuan or a bank card. However, whether it was the house or the car, it was in someone else's name. After 2 years, these rich old men would get tired of it and take it back with a single sentence. A life without worrying about food and clothing, with a good house and a good car, was something that ordinary girls couldn't achieve in their lifetime. If they could enjoy it at such a young age, how could it be clean if it was so easy to get? On one side was a beautiful illusion for 2 or 3 years, and on the other side was a cruel reality. Many girls would choose the former without thinking. And such a choice would destroy his entire life. Some girls would fall from grace, and some would stop halfway and start all over again. This type of girl was smart. She knew how to make use of her accumulated connections, good figure, and good looks to find a management company to sign a contract with. Those female celebrities who constantly had negative news about them often came from such a background. Photos of them sitting on the stage were exposed, and photos of them in bed were posted on all the major gossip forums. Even if the management team put out the fire in a timely manner, they often couldn't stop the fire in this kind of disaster area. In any case, none of those who did these things did not regret it. Even if there were people who were willing to help them in the future, and there were people who had the strength to do their best to clear their names, in the end, those stains would be dug out by others. Sooner or later, they would not be able to avoid a calamity. There was a good saying, God is watching what you do. Whatever you do, there must be consequences. The cycle of karma could not be avoided. It was something that could never be avoided. Chen Wei accepted Su Yun's suggestion to put a label on Han Yen-er's identity as a prostitute. This would make it easier for Su Yun and Lin Gu to protect her. Of course, regarding this matter, Su Yun still respected Han Yen-er. He went to the hotel to find Han Yen-er and asked her if she could accept such a role. He also explained to her what the role was like. Han Yen-er heard this and nodded silently. Mr. Su, I know very well what this role is like. I was forced to do this because I was forced to do it by Song Zilong before, so I'm not unfamiliar with this role. I'm sorry for making you accept this role, Su Yun said. But this way, we can better protect you. Mr. Su, please don't say sorry to me, because everything you do is to protect me. I can't thank you enough, really. Han Yen-er said. I really didn't expect you to come up with a plan B because of me. Since I asked you to come to Huaxia, I have the obligation to ensure your safety. If I can't even guarantee your safety, then I'm not being kind. Su Yun smiled bitterly. If no one else can protect you, then I can't not protect you. What else could Han Yen-er say? She had nothing to say other than gratitude. This identity was not difficult to accept. Han Yen-er knew very well what a girl with such an identity had to do. Although she was in Korea, she believed that the rich and powerful men in Huaxia were the same as those in Korea. Anyone who was involved in this kind of thing was definitely not a good person. The only thing that made it difficult for Han Yen-er was to make her act in front of Su Yun, because Su Yun was perfect in her world. At this time, she needed to see Su Yun as a person who ate, drank, prostituted, and gambled. She really couldn't see any of these in Su Yun. We still have time. Don't worry. Slowly find a way to adapt to this role. If you can adapt to this role, we will start again. Su Yun said, these days may be very difficult for you. I don't know when your addiction will kick in, and I don't know if you can hold on. I can only say that I hope you can hold on as long as possible. Many people tell me that if there is a first time, there will be a second time. Just like with this kind of thing, if there is a first time, there will be a second time. Han Yen-er smiled calmly and said, but there are two sides to everything. If I can hold on the first time, I believe I can hold on the second time. I am sure I can hold on. Su Yun smiled with relief and said, I didn't believe you last time, but you changed my mind. This time, I believe you. Thank you. Hearing Su Yun's trust, Han Yen-er was full of motivation. Tonight, it's all up to you. None of us will affect the development of tonight's matter. Su Yun said, only you can make the deal with them, so you can do it, right? I went there on the first day. Trust me, I can do it. Han Yen-er nodded. I'll arrange for someone to prepare a car for you. Today, you have to show that you've suddenly exploded with a large sum of money. Otherwise, it won't be easy to convince them in the final large-scale transaction. Su Yun said, can you find the place if you drive there tonight? I know how to use the GPS, Han Yen-er smiled. Then I will ask someone to give the car key to Xiao Yi and have Xiao Yi bring it to you. Su Yun said, it will be hard at night. Try to delay it until after midnight. I understand. Han Yen nodded seriously and said, Trust me. If I can't do such a small thing, then I am useless. It's a normal deal. I understand. Su Yun said goodbye to Han Yen again. She was going to stay up that night, so he hoped she could rest for a while. Because she suddenly got control of her drug addiction, Han Yen's body obviously felt weak. It was very strong that she could still hold on. After Su Yun left, Han Yen's drug addiction acted up again. This time, she used the old method to wake herself up with cold water. But after she woke up, she immediately took cold medicine and covered herself with the quilt. She didn't want to catch a cold or have a high fever during such an important mission. Han Yen took the mission too seriously. It was even more important than her most important and largest concert, so she had to make sure she was in good health. If it weren't for the fact that her drug addiction was too difficult to control, Han Yen wouldn't have taken cold baths. It was too easy to get sick. Just like that, Han Yen protected herself well. When Bai Xiaoye brought her the car key, she got up and went to eat something. Tonight, she was the star of the show, and no one else would be involved. Su Yun and the police had also left everything out of the show, and they definitely wouldn't get involved. Chapter 3462. Han Yen was prepared and acted as if nothing had happened. As a professionally trained artist, especially one from Korea, her acting skills were top-notch. The artists trained in Korea were very good at acting. For example, in reality shows, they acted naturally according to the script, but in Hua Xiao's reality shows, they weren't as natural and were often exposed by netizens. After adjusting her mentality, Han Yen got in the car. Even after getting in the car, she calmed herself down for about half an hour. Seeing that Han Yen hadn't driven away, Bai Xiaoye was worried. She immediately called Su Yun and told Su Yun about the situation. Han Yen is in the room. She's been in the car for a long time and hasn't left yet. She's already in the car? Su Yun looked at the time. It was only 12 o'clock. It seemed that Han Yen had left the room early. Yeah, at least half an hour, Bai Xiaoye said. Do you want me to go and check on her? I'm very worried about her condition. If she can't leave, what should I do? Do I need to say something? Don't go. Let her adjust herself. Right now, her mentality is very important. If anyone intervenes, it might affect her negatively. That's why I'm not at the hotel, Su Yun said. Don't disturb her. It's not too late. Let her adjust herself. At this time, the sound of a car starting came from the hotel parking lot. When Bai Xiaoye saw the car light up, she felt relieved. She started the car. Bai Xiaoye said, It's okay. Brother, don't worry. She's already starting to walk out. I haven't been worried. Su Yun smiled bitterly. Don't worry. It's been hard on you. You've been watching over her for the past few days. It's not a big deal, Bai Xiaoye said. We're family. Don't be so polite. But after this is over, you'd better treat me to something good to make up for it. It's just a small matter. As long as you have time, I'll let you know. Su Yun felt much more relaxed. I have the time, but I'm afraid you don't. Bai Xiaoye pretended to be unhappy and said, I'm hanging up. Go do your work. Bye-bye. Han Yen didn't drive fast on the road. She had already set the navigation on her phone, and it was only half an hour before she arrived at her destination. Han Yen took a few deep breaths. Along the way, she adjusted herself as she drove. She kept telling herself that today was a very simple matter. She was here to buy as usual, just like the first day she came here. Now, Han Yen's nervousness was all in her head. She was nervous on the first day she came here to look for a seller, but not because of a guilty conscience. Today, she was nervous because of a guilty conscience. Today, she was nervous because of a guilty conscience. The two reactions were obviously different, which was why Han Yen was worried. Along the way, she kept adjusting herself, trying to get into the role. Finally, when the car arrived at the entrance of the hotel, Han Yen-er's face flashed with a trace of confidence. She had indeed become more confident as she adjusted herself. She believed that she could get into the role. Otherwise, her years as an artist would have been wasted. Wasn't that the most basic thing an artist needed? It was to be able to enter a character at any time. Then, any character would be a lousy artist and definitely not fit to be an artist. In fact, whether it was Huaxia or Korea, there were expressionless men, and there was no lack of expression cancer. Fortunately, Han Yen-er wasn't one of them. She was a professional. What was a professional? It meant that she truly understood what acting was. Acting wasn't something that amateurs thought they could do. It was something that was recognized by the public. That was what a qualified artist should do. Amateur artists knew a few expressions. One was a frown, which was the same for all the characters. One was a smile, which was the same for all the characters. One was a cold expression, which was the same for all the characters. It was enough to act cool. Professional actors were different. Their eyes twitched, the veins on their foreheads jumped, and the frown between their eyebrows was all about acting. Han Yen-er was a person who could act from head to toe. Although she was an idol, she wasn't the kind of person who carried the burden of being an idol. She felt that she was the kind of person who had to look in the mirror every minute to worry that her image wasn't perfect enough. At least in the skill bag of Korean artists, beauty and handsomeness could always be solved with a scalpel, but one's own profession needed to be learned by oneself. When the Huaxia male artists started to learn from the former female vases and become vases, the female vases in Korea started to work hard to become professionals. In this regard, the Korean artists worked much harder than the Huaxia artists. They treated it as a job that needed to be managed well, rather than a means to make money. When Han Yen-er got out of the car, the nervous expression appeared on her face. She walked into the bar as fast as she could, and the young man who had already noticed her at the door followed her in. When Han Yen-er entered to look for a private cellar, the young man patted her on the shoulder and said, "Come with me. Don't talk nonsense. Be careful." Han Yen-er hurried to follow him. After she was taken to a back room with 5 people, Han Yen-er asked carefully, "I want the goods." "Who are you? What goods do you want? What nonsense are you talking about? This is a bar. Go to the front to drink," the young man said skillfully. "It's me. I've been here before. I've really been here before. I know you have it. I beg you, please sell it to me." When Han Yen-er said this, she wasn't pretending. At this moment, she was really addicted to drugs, which made her feel very uncomfortable. Her begging in this uncomfortable state was very sincere, and Han Yen-er's lackey didn't know how to refuse. At this time, someone had already told Triangle Eyes that Han Yen-er was a beautiful woman. They remembered her, and she drove a sports car today. It looked like she had a lot more money than the day before. Triangle Eyes was very interested. That's right, he was interested in money. He wanted to know where this beautiful woman got the money, and how to get the woman's money into his hands. That was his biggest interest at the moment. Triangle Eyes signaled his men to stall her, and it would be best if he could get more information out of her. His men immediately went over and signaled him to do other things. Triangle Eyes' men signaled Han Yen-er to find a quiet place to sit and talk. Han Yen-er didn't refuse. They found a quiet corner and sat down. The man asked for 2 glasses of wine. Han Yen-er didn't drink. When the man pushed a glass of wine to her, she said firmly, "I came here for that. I beg you to sell me some more. I really can't help it." At this time, Han Yen-er didn't pretend at all. When she said this, her mind was hypnotized, and she fell into a state of addiction. This state couldn't be faked by ordinary people. "I'm sorry, beautiful. I'm afraid we don't have what you want now." The man smiled and refused again. "I have money. I can give you as much as you want. I'll pay double, okay?" Han Yen-er was really acting like herself. She couldn't control what she wanted to say and said it all. "Double." The man was stunned. He slowly realized that Han Yen-er's state was not right. She was about to get addicted. If he didn't control it now, she would lose control in a moment. But he still tested Han Yen. I have a magu that I keep for myself. Are you willing to buy it for double the price? People who were addicted to drugs didn't care about bargaining. It was like people who were addicted to online shopping. They didn't care about bargaining or reducing the price. They just wanted to buy. Once a person was addicted to drugs, they didn't ask for anything else. They just wanted to suck it up. As long as they could get what they wanted, nothing else mattered. They just wanted that moment of happiness. They didn't care about anything else. Chapter 3463. Han Yen answered without hesitation, I'll buy it. If it wasn't someone who was truly addicted to drugs and couldn't control themselves, they would more or less hesitate and consider it at this moment. Even if it was someone who was addicted to drugs, if it wasn't for the fact that they were addicted to drugs, they would more or less consider the cost-performance ratio. After the guy got Han Yen's answer, he took out a pill. Han Yen took out the money in her wallet and gave him double the price. The guy who got the money saw how generous Han Yen was and understood why his boss was tempted. Obviously, it wasn't because she had a little money, but because she suddenly had a lot of money. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to spend money like water. Han Yen was on the verge of losing her mind. She had to leave immediately. Otherwise, she would be in trouble if her drug addiction really kicked in. But just as Han Yen stood up, the guy suddenly stopped her and said, Where did you get rich? Haha. Is there anything we can work together on? Han Yen's face turned cold and she said, We are working together now. As long as you have high-quality drugs, we can always work together. As for what I do, I advise you not to ask. Sometimes, the more you know, the more dangerous it is. The more ignorant you are, the safer you are. The guy smiled and said, I'm just asking. You don't have to be so nervous. No matter where you are in the world, people who die are usually smart. You know what I mean, right? Han Yen said and continued to leave. But the guy didn't want to let her go. This was what their boss, Triangle Eyes, wanted. Beauty, it's not good for you to be on the road like this. Don't you think you're being too nosy? Han Yen said, The only thing I'm here for is to get the drugs from you. As for other things, I hope we don't have anything to do with each other. Beauty, when you begged me to sell you the drugs, you weren't like this. The guy laughed coldly. If you had the drugs, of course I wouldn't be like this. But now you don't have any and you sold the last pill to me at a high price. Do you expect me to be nice to you? We don't have anything to do with each other in the future. Do you think I'd come to a place where you don't have any drugs to be friends with? That's ridiculous. Han Yen's eyes widened. Get out of my way. I want to leave. Hearing Han Yen's words, the man's smile became kinder, and he said, Pretty girl, do you really think we're out of stock? Han Yen paused and said, What do you mean? You still have more. Of course. The other party smiled. Han Yen put on a look of disbelief and said, You're telling me you don't have any more, and you're selling it to me at double the price? I'm sorry, Beauty. I can refund you the money. We are also considering your safety. The other party said, How about this? I will take you to see our big brother. No need. I'll come back when I need you. Han Yen turned to leave again. Don't, Beauty. Your current state is really unsafe. I can see that you can't hold it in anymore. I know you don't want to take this pill in such a strange place, but if you can't hold it in and take it while driving, it will be too dangerous. The other party said, We have customers who took it in the car and fell asleep while waiting for the traffic lights. You know the consequences. Once the police come, there is no escape. Han Yen took a deep breath and said coldly, I won't be like them. Although she said that to the guy, in her heart, she said it to Su Yun. She wanted to emphasize that she wouldn't be like those people who couldn't control themselves. She had self-control and could insist on not taking any more drugs. But we have a safe place here. You can enjoy it as much as you want. There is no need to hold back. The other party smiled and said, "Let's go, Beauty. I will take you to see our big brother. You and we are old customers. If we work together for a long time, we can get to know each other and make friends. I believe it will be beneficial for you." As an addict, she was naturally very happy to face this kind of situation. The biggest worry of a drug addict was not being able to find a source of supply, or not being able to find a good source of supply. Therefore, no drug addict would refuse an invitation from such a person. However, those who refused must be suspicious. So at this moment, Han Yen couldn't refuse. What does it mean to make friends? Will I get a discount in the future? Then you will have to listen to our boss. The other party smiled. Han Yen said to herself, if I can get a discount in the long term or in large quantities, of course I will be willing to be friends. Although her addiction was kicking in, Han Yen still endured it and followed the other party to a small hidden room in the corner of the bar. After seeing Han Yen, Triangle Eyes smiled and said, "Beauty, I didn't expect to see you again so soon." Yes, it was quite fast. Han Yen went straight to the point. If we are friends now, what benefits will I get in the future? Of course, the purest goods will be kept for you. Triangular Eyes laughed. In fact, he didn't have any purer goods. They were all brought out when he escaped from the incident last time. Although there wasn't much left, it was definitely enough to sentence him to death 100 times. Really? Han Yen looked like she didn't lack money. As long as you have the goods, we are friends. I will always take care of your business. But don't play me. If I need it, can you satisfy me? Triangle Eyes nodded. Of course. If we can't even satisfy your needs, then wouldn't the other customers cry to death when we do this business? Don't be so sure. Han Yen snorted. I just asked for it, and you only gave me one. If you didn't stop me, it might have been the last deal between us. This is all a misunderstanding. Triangle Eyes smiled. What I want to tell you is, don't be too sure. I might need a lot of things in the future, Han Yen said. When that time comes, I'm afraid you guys will cry. Beauty, you are so funny. How much can you use by yourself? Me by myself? Ha ha. Han Yen laughed with disdain. She didn't need to say more. Triangle Eyes could figure it out on his own. He believed that Triangular Eyes would be able to comprehend the meaning behind it very quickly. At least now, Han Yen was a very rich customer, so Triangle Eyes didn't want to offend such a big customer. Beauty, one day without you feels like 3 years. I really envy you for having a place to make money. Triangle Eyes didn't ask directly, but kept talking about this topic. Everyone has their own life, and everyone has their own food. Han Yen said, you can make a living, but I can't, so you can make money from me. Similarly, you can make a living for me, but you can't, so you don't have to beat around the bush. Ha ha ha, I don't mean anything else. Triangle Eye's smile was as fake as it could be. It was disgusting. Han Yen smiled indifferently. Then can I go first? We are done talking. I don't think it's safe here. You won't stop me, right? Of course not, Triangle Eyes said. But you can rest assured that we are absolutely safe here. Beauty, if you are interested, I have some good stuff here. Do you want to try it? It's on me. Then, Triangle Eyes took out a bag of blue ice. This blue ice was the best stuff. Han Yen was stunned. This was the natural reaction of an addict. The surprise on his face, the greed in his eyes, and the temptation that made her want to jump on him was right in front of her. At this moment, Han Yen-er's heart was in a mess. This was a temptation that no addict could resist. It was free, and Han Yen was able to taste the best stuff. She was just getting addicted to it. This temptation was stronger than the Earth's gravity. Chapter 3464. It only meant that Triangle Eyes was treacherous and cautious. Han Yen was not stupid. She knew what Triangle Eyes wanted. It was such a simple test that there was no need to explain. If Han Yen refused, what awaited her would be the other party's evil plan. What made it even more difficult for Han Yen to control herself was that her biological needs were telling her that this was the best. This was a great opportunity that she couldn't miss. How could she miss out on something like this? Even if Han Yen had already made up her mind to quit her drug addiction, when faced with this blue ice, she would not hesitate to give it a try. It would not be too late to quit after she tried it. In the end, Han Yen naturally accepted Triangle Eye's invitation. Even though she knew it was wrong, she could not resist the temptation in the end. Triangle Eyes watched Han Yen slowly enjoy the blue ice he gave her. Judging from Han Yen-er's proficiency, he could determine Han Yen-er's age. This way, he could more clearly identify Han Yen-er's position. The higher the poison age, the easier it was for a person to be a spy. Even if there were some real spies who had come into contact with drugs, their control was limited to the initial contact. When their self-awareness and willpower were still relatively strong, they could make the correct and rational judgment. Once spies were exposed to drugs for a long time and took too much, they would be deeply addicted. In the end, there were many who were successfully poisoned. Therefore, the older a person was, the safer they were. Even if they had problems, they would have been tortured by years of addiction to drugs until they were fine. Han Yen had been exposed to drugs for 2 years, so all the movements and steps were very skillful. There was a small bed in Triangle Eye's room. After Han Yen enjoyed it, she lay on her side and fell into a hallucination. This was common knowledge among drug addicts because they all knew that after enjoying something so strong, they might vomit because of the stimulation. If they lay on their back, they might not be able to vomit in time and die of suffocation. Therefore, experienced drug addicts would naturally choose to lie on their side. Han Yen seemed to be very experienced in this, which made Triangle Eyes feel more at ease. This was the most basic habit of people who like to sleep a little before going to bed. Nowadays, most of the addicts would choose to do it secretly before going to bed. After all, they had to pretend to be normal during the day. Those who liked to get high also chose to party at night. For example, some rich people especially like to choose to party at night and find a few girls to accompany them. At this time, when they were too high, they would naturally choose to sleep on their side. After Han Yen fell into the illusion, she lay on her side peacefully. At this time, she didn't care about the dangerous men around her. Her subjective will was in a state of zero. In other words, she would not be aware of what these men wanted to do to her at this time. Triangle Eyes looked at Han Yen and smiled. At this time, his men wanted to touch Han Yen. Since Han Yen had lost all will to resist, it would be a waste not to play with her. "Don't make trouble for me." Seeing that his subordinates had the intention to make a move, the triangular-eyed man glared fiercely. "This fellow is so powerful. If you guys torment her a little more, what if she really dies in the bar? This is the Guqin Island. It's not easy for us to cover up this kind of thing. Behave yourselves. If you want to find a woman, I'll take you to her later. Not now." "Yes, boss." Triangle Eyes frowned. "You'd better think about what you do in the future. In our line of work, I've always emphasized that no one touches drugs. Whoever touches drugs, I'll kill them. I don't want people who are not clear-headed. In addition, don't touch a woman who touches drugs. A woman who touches drugs will do anything for drugs and money. Who can guarantee that she's not sick? If any of you get sick, you may pass it to me. I'll eat and drink with you every day. So, remember this. Don't touch a woman who plays with drugs. Do you understand? I don't need to say it again, do I?" "Yes, boss." Triangle Eyes could only shake his head helplessly at his subordinates' promises. Because he knew that these guys needed to be reminded from time to time. If he didn't remind them for a long time, these guys would relax their vigilance. It wasn't easy to be a boss these days. If they were all so disciplined, they would have studied hard every day and worked hard to serve their motherland after graduating with a high degree. Who would be reduced to doing such illegal things? Who would be willing to risk their lives for a living? So, these people did not have much self-awareness. Triangle Eyes had to remind them from time to time so that he could live a peaceful life. For now, Triangle Eyes was able to live without so much pressure. A large part of the reason was due to his own cautiousness and the fact that he knew how to train his subordinates. Otherwise, he would have been crippled by now. Go do what you need to do. I'm enough here. Triangle Eyes waved his hand and impatiently asked his subordinates to leave. After his men left, he sat down in front of Han Yen. Only then did Triangle Eyes have time to look at Han Yen. After looking at her for a while, he felt it was a shame that such a beautiful girl had been infected with this disease. It was such a shame that her life would be ruined. This was also the reason why Triangle Eyes had never touched drugs for so many years. He knew that once he came into contact with this substance, his family would be ruined and his life would be ruined. No matter how powerful or beautiful a person was, they would die a horrible death once they were infected with this substance. Triangle Eyes knew how immoral it was to be in this industry, so he would never find a wife or have children. He was afraid that retribution would fall on the next generation. After about 2 hours, Han Yen woke up from her coma. When Han Yen woke up, her mind was blank. Her first reaction was regret, because she knew how dangerous her actions were. But when she realized that the clothes on her body had not been touched, the stone in her heart was slowly put down. But even if it was the truth, she still could not believe it. You didn't do anything to me, right? Han Yen looked at Triangle Eyes' expressionless face and asked carefully. Triangle Eyes shook his head and said, I would not allow any of my subordinates to do anything to my friends. Han Yen calmed down again. Although she was surprised, she did not feel any discomfort in her body, so she did not doubt Triangle Eyes' words. We are friends from now on. You can come to me if you need anything. Triangle Eyes smiled. He trusted Han Yen completely, and he knew she had a lot of money. So, he did this to get a rich client. Then, do you have any more blue ice that you can sell me? Han Yen asked. Triangle Eyes nodded and said, Of course, but I don't have much of this stuff right now. If you want, I have it. After that, Triangle Eyes took out a small bag from his pocket and handed it to Han Yen. He had prepared it while Han Yen was sleeping. Triangle Eyes knew that no one could resist the temptation of such a rare item and would definitely want to buy it. How much do you want for this? Han Yen did not hesitate and said, I'll take it. Since we are friends, I won't charge you too much. 15,000. Triangle Eyes said quickly, but I have to remind you, don't use too much of this stuff. I'm afraid you can't take it. Han Yen took a deep breath and said, I know. Then I won't waste any more time. If you need anything, come to me. Triangle Eyes laughed. Han Yen took out 20,000 from her bag and gave it to Triangle Eyes. The extra 5,000 is my deposit. If you have any more of this stuff, remember to save some for me. Okay, don't worry. Triangle Eyes took the money and said, You are always welcome at the bar. If you want to drink, you are also welcome. It's my treat. Han Yen snorted and got up to leave. She didn't say anything else. After she left, she drove away quickly. It was almost 3 in the morning, and Triangle Eyes arranged for his subordinates to close the door and leave. At this time, everyone who should be there would be there, and those who did not would not be there. Chapter 3465. What Han Yen had done at Triangle Eyes bar made her very nervous. She didn't care that it was 3 in the morning. On the way out of the bar, she took out her phone and called Su Yun. When she told Su Yun that she couldn't control herself that day, she lost control of her emotions. Su Yun could tell that Han Yen was on the verge of breaking down, so he told her to go back to the hotel immediately and that he would find her there. Han Yen hung up the phone and rushed to the hotel as fast as she could. On the way, she even ran a red light in her panic. When Han Yen stumbled back to the hotel, Su Yun was already there. When Han Yen got out of the car and saw Su Yun, she broke down. She couldn't hold back her tears anymore. Su Yun signaled by Xiaoye to take her back to her room first. Su Yun didn't go in right away. Instead, he looked around the hotel to make sure that Triangle Eyes didn't send anyone to follow Han Yen. Then, he went back to the hotel. Bai Xiaoye took Han Yen back to her room and came out. Han Yen said she wanted to calm down. After washing her face with cold water, she did feel a little better. Su Yun opened the door and walked in. Han Yen immediately dried her face and walked out of the room. She immediately took out the blue ice and magoo that she had bought that day and gave them to Su Yun. She admitted that she had taken the blue ice and told Su Yun the whole process and the reason in detail. She kept apologizing, saying that she didn't want to do it. I know you didn't do it on purpose. At that time, it was beyond your control. Su Yun comforted Han Yen. We didn't consider that. I should be the one apologizing. Han Yen shook her head. There must be other ways to solve the problem, but I really couldn't control myself. It's my fault. Okay, let's not talk about it. I'm glad you're safe. Su Yun said, I didn't expect you to be able to get blue ice from them. It's even more dangerous than magoo. Han Yen, although you accidentally touched this thing today, I hope you can forget about it in the shortest time possible. Blue ice is too dangerous, and I don't want you to touch it again. If you do, it will be harder for you to quit than magoo. Han Yen was really afraid of drugs now. She was well aware of how attractive such things were. Take blue ice for example. Even if Su Yun reminded her, she couldn't get rid of the feeling in her mind. The feeling of consuming blue ice was impossible to get rid of. Han Yen was scared. Was she going to get addicted after just one time? If that was the case, then Lan Bing was simply too powerful. This kind of blue ice was a symbol of a high-purity brand all over the world. This kind of product was not from the Golden Triangle, but a kind of high-purity ice from Mexico, North America. It was said that a drug master did not think of ephedrine when he was making the poison, so he used other substances instead. That was why this kind of blue ice was formed. The purity of blue ice was so high that many old customers in North America didn't want blue ice anymore. Therefore, the price of blue ice had skyrocketed. Su Yun didn't expect Triangle Eyes to have blue ice. He was really surprised. This is the first time I've seen it, Han Yen said. It's very pure. I didn't expect it at all. It's because it's so pure that it's so dangerous. Su Yun said, if these guys can get their hands on blue ice, it means they're very dangerous. More dangerous than we thought. You have the right to know. Han Yen was ready to risk everything. Because I took blue ice in their bar, they trust me. No matter how dangerous they are, at least for now, they're not dangerous to me. I've made up my mind. No matter how dangerous they are, I won't give up easily. Su Yun was touched by Han Yen's persistence and support. I'll do my best to keep you safe. You have to be careful, especially with blue ice. Don't think I'm talking too much, but I still have to remind you not to touch it again. Okay, I know. Han Yen nodded seriously. Su Yun emphasized it again and again. Obviously, he was worried about the threat of blue ice. You're making fast progress. I thought it would take you at least tomorrow to gain that guy's trust. I didn't expect you to do it today. Keep up the good work tomorrow and strengthen his trust. As long as you can do it, we won't be far from success. Han Yen heard this and couldn't help but get excited. I won't let you down. I'll definitely gain his trust and complete my mission. Don't worry, President Su. I knew you could do it. Su Yun smiled. I'll take this. Rest well and don't think about it anymore. Okay. Han Yen nodded. If Su Yun didn't hurry up and take it away, she was afraid she wouldn't be able to control herself. Su Yun took blue ice and left. Blue ice wasn't as common as mago, so Su Yun didn't flush it down the toilet like last time. He needed to take it to Chen Wei and let him find a professional to identify where it came from. The ability of this group of people seemed to be far beyond Su Yun's imagination. After all, in Huaxia, most people in this line of business only had the Golden Triangle as their channel. Those who could get high-end goods outside the Golden Triangle were obviously not ordinary people. Because it was too late, Su Yun didn't bother Chen Wei. Early the next morning, he got in touch with Chen Wei and reported what happened to Han Yen last night. Then, he brought blue ice to Chen Wei. When Chen Wei saw blue ice, he was very surprised. Without needing Su Yun to say anything, he asked someone to find an expert to identify it. It didn't take long for the results to come out. Blue ice was indeed a high-end product that could only be found in America. Blue ice was also very popular in America. Even though its price was much higher than ordinary products, many people went crazy for it. It seemed that people's tastes were getting better and better. Only this kind of high-end product could satisfy some people's tastes. This blue ice has a very nice name. It's called Blue Enchantress. After the expert identified it, he told Su Yun, this kind of product can only be found in China because it's very popular. It's often out of stock in North America, so it's not common in Huaxia. Chen Wei frowned. So, the people who can get their hands on it must be a very scary international criminal organization? Maybe. The expert nodded. At first, Su Yun thought the same. However, after considering the current situation of those guys, he felt that this matter was a little strange. Director Chen, if those guys have such a powerful background, why did they choose to stay in Qingdao? Is it because it's easier for them to do things in Qingdao's harbor? Is there a bigger loophole in the customs? Qingdao's customs may not be perfect, but it's not so easy to let this kind of thing in, the expert said. Nowadays, very few of these high-end American goods enter Huaxia's market alone. Many of them put on a layer of crime on top of their original crime. It's safer under this double layer of protection. What do you mean? Su Yun said, double layer of crime? Isn't that more deserving of death? No. Chen Wei shook his head. What he meant was to put on a layer of pardonable clothing for this unforgivable crime. In other words, they use a less serious crime to cover up the real crime. Su Yun nodded. Then these bastards are too cunning. What methods do they use? They use smuggling, especially smuggled cars, Chen Wei said. Su Yun frowned. If they use smuggled cars, then they shouldn't enter through Qingdao. Using smuggled cars through Qingdao is too suicidal. If they do it so blatantly, they'll be caught. Most of the smuggled cars in Huaxia come from Hong Kong and Macau. That's right. Chen Wei nodded. Chapter 3466. Su Yun also knew about the current situation of smuggled cars in the country. There were really too many of them. Based on the real income of Huaxia, there were not many people who could afford to drive those astronomical luxury cars. Even if they were businessmen, it was difficult to afford such expensive cars. But what was the current situation? Some of them were not involved in big businesses, but they could easily drive luxury cars that were worth millions. Perhaps their entire business investment did not even amount to a few million. How could they afford to drive luxury cars worth millions? In Huaxia, there was no need to mention how high the import tariff was. It was quite high. What kind of car could you buy with 300,000 or 400,000? It was nothing more than some mid-range cars. It was impossible to buy a real luxury car. But water wheels were different. Water wheels were cheap. Therefore, the customers of these smuggled water wheels were not ordinary office workers. There was no real meaning for office workers to use these luxury cars. The only use was to show off. The price of the equipment might be to be annoyed by the boss and be fired. Therefore, these kinds of cars were liked by the bosses of some companies in the startup stage. The purpose was very simple. It was to show off. In Huaxia, if you drove a car worth 500,000, you could only talk about business worth 500,000. 1 million could talk about business worth 1 million. If you wanted to talk about business worth millions or tens of millions, if you did not even have a car worth a few million, how could you talk about it? This was the conclusion obtained through practice. Then there were the mine owners of the various mines. As long as they were in the mines, there was no need for a license. The business formed a win-win situation. If the buyer drove a luxury car, the group of people they came into contact with would definitely be different. The bread would be left for the small people, and they would eat a bigger cake. Moreover, this kind of car would not be driven forever. When they used the face and aura of this luxury car to make a lot of money, they would buy a proper luxury car. These water wheels were basically used for transition. It was a springboard for some people who did not have money to become rich. The population base of Huaxia was so large. There were too many people who did not have money to become rich. Therefore, the demand for this kind of springboard was very high. On the Fonjin Road in Hong Kong and Macau, there were dozens of water wheel shops of all sizes that operated smuggled cars. These water wheel shops mainly operated new or second-hand luxury cars with the left driver's seat. You could see the clues, right? The port area was the right driver's seat area. How could it be the same as the continent? In fact, he was right, because 9 out of the 10 high-end luxury cars in the left driver's seat would end up in Huaxia. Generally, the price of a supercar transported from overseas to the port area by ship was about 10,000 yuan. Air transport might be more expensive, at least 30,000 to 50,000 yuan. Under legal circumstances, the transportation cost was very cheap. You could check the cost on the major logistics companies' websites. The real expensive cost was in the smuggling process. The cost of a car entering the mainland from the port area was more than 100,000 yuan. As for how it got in, everyone basically knew. After all, if the management was strict, such a situation would definitely not happen. Obviously, there were people who neglected their duties. Of course, it was not easy for these carriages to enter the mainland. It was quite troublesome to cross the mountains. The destination of these water wheels was a place in the southern part of the continent called the Yellow River. Many people knew that the water wheels here were high-end and cheap. Once these cars entered the mainland, they would no longer be able to do business openly. Not everyone would be able to see these cars on the streets. They would be able to choose from them as if they were buying cabbages. That was impossible. It was pure nonsense. In the mainland, all the water wheel businesses were done behind closed doors. This was against the law. Who would do it openly? Wasn't that just looking for trouble? The price of a water wheel was generally 1/5 of the normal price. Basically, there would be a free car service to buy a car here. No one was willing to take the risk of driving it back. After all, it might be checked on the road. However, since these buyers dared to buy it, it meant that they had connections in the local area. At least, they were familiar with the traffic police, so they were not afraid of being checked. The people who delivered the cars were not worried. After all, how many people would check cars on the highway? How many people with more than 10 years of driving experience had never encountered a traffic police car check? There should be a lot of them. Moreover, even if they were checked, so what? This kind of car would be confiscated if it was checked. There was no benefit for the inspectors. As long as they paid a few thousand yuan on the spot, they would be released directly. It was not to slander some people who were in charge of the inspection here. This kind of thing was too common in Huaxia. There was a saying that was good. Which truck driver did not overload? How could they make money without overloading? Why was it that once overloaded, it would be doubled? Because if they were caught overloading by a little, they would also be given money. If they were caught overloading by a few times, they would also be given money. Since the money for feeding dogs and buying roads was the same, then they would be overloaded. Every day, there were many places in Huaxia that were under construction. Why was there a need to explain? Back to the topic, because the transactions of these smuggled cars were very secretive, these smuggled cars were experienced in the battlefield when they entered Huaxia. It could be said that it was relatively safe. Therefore, high-end American goods like blue ice were basically smuggled into Hong Kong and Macau by means of some means. Then, they used the smuggled car channel from the port to Huaxia to enter the mainland with these water wheels. In this case, it was very safe. Even if they were checked, the people who checked would be targeting the water wheel. Therefore, their attention would not be on the drugs. Naturally, they would not bring any anti-drug dogs or other working dogs. Therefore, some drugs might be hidden in the car and would not be easy to find. In the end, even if they caught the culprit, it would be nothing more than a punishment for smuggling. How much compensation could they get by confiscating the car? The water wheel was not worth much. This was much less than the punishment of being caught for smuggling drugs. This was simply too safe. As long as the vehicles could enter the mainland smoothly, they could be dismantled in these hidden places. Then, these goods could naturally start to circulate through their own channels. Now that the inspection system was so strict, this was probably the safest, most effective, and lowest cost way for American goods like these to enter Huaxia. Anyway, they were just transporting the goods. Adding something in the car was the same. After all, most of these cars were brought in from North America, especially large cars with large displacement. That was the favorite of North Americans. Who let them be in a big place with a small population? Gasoline was not worth much. Therefore, Su Yun and Chen Wei could basically infer the origin of this kind of goods. In this case, this triangular-eyed man really piqued Su Yun's interest. Maybe he could find a big clue through this triangular-eyed man and catch a big fish. It looks like we have to catch this guy. Su Yun clenched his fists. His knuckles cracked. No matter what channel he used to get this kind of goods, we have to dig out some information from him. You're a must. Chen Wei also nodded. I really didn't expect that we would be able to dig out such a big thing in the end. Su Yun said coldly, these smugglers have already seriously affected the country's economy. The consequences are very bad. They actually colluded with drug traffickers from the United States to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If we don't give them such a good opportunity, it would be a waste of such a good opportunity. When Chen Wei heard Su Yun's words, he could not help but laugh. We're really lucky to have met you in this matter. Otherwise, even if we could catch everyone in this line, we might have missed this big clue and let this big fish escape. Yes, once they escape, we don't know when we'll find another chance to catch them. They can continue to harm people for many years. Su Yun said, Director Chen, this time we can't let them go. They can't escape from Piano Island. Chen Wei also clenched his fists. I want them to never return. It's impossible for them to escape. Even if I use all the available forces on Piano Island, I won't let any of them escape. Su Yun was satisfied with Chen Wei's protection. Thinking that Han Yen-er, who had contributed so much, was going to go on a solo mission, Su Yun was also worried. He decided to go back and make a plan for Han Yen-er so that when she went to the bar again, she would be more natural. Ensuring Han Yen-er's safety was Su Yun's top priority. Chapter 3467. In the current situation, they had to take advantage of the situation. Under Su Yun's careful planning, Han Yen-er went to the bar at the same time the next night. When Han Yen-er came again, Triangle Eyes and his men were not so vigilant. They focused more on the customers who came here for the first time. Among these people, there were those who came to buy from them, and those who came to drink by accident. However, the people who really came here to drink usually wouldn't come a second time. This was because Triangle Eye's bar didn't rely on selling drinks to make money. Therefore, they didn't spend money to raise some little bees who sold drinks here. Without these little bees who knew how to sell alcohol, it would be very difficult for the bar to continue operating by relying on the scattered consumption of ordinary consumers. Even if the drinks in the bar were generally sold at a higher price than the normal price, it would be nothing more than 300 yuan worth of drinks being sold for 600 yuan, and some soft drinks and fruit platters would be given. Then, the venue and the service of the staff would also cost money. If they were ordinary customers, 3 or 5 people could buy a set meal that cost a few hundred yuan. How much money would they make when all the seats were filled? If they wanted to make money by selling drinks, they had to have bees that could stir up men's impulsive spending. Only the hard work of these bees could stimulate men's impulsive spending. Some people could spend tens of thousands of yuan in one night, so it was normal for men to spend impulsively after drinking. There weren't any pretty ladies here that could attract bees and butterflies, so it was difficult to attract normal customers again. Therefore, in the face of these new faces, the triangular-eyed people were very careful to pay attention to them. The triangular-eyed man constantly instilled in them the principle that caution is the parent of safety. Every day, the triangular-eyed people would sound the alarm, so they naturally got used to this state of life. "Beauty, you're here again? Our boss is inside. You can go and find him." Triangle Eyes men greeted Han Yen warmly after seeing her. After Han Yen left the day before, Triangle Eyes held a meeting with them. The meeting was simple. He told them to be nice to Han Yen in the future, as she would become a big client of theirs. This super big customer's money could help them get rid of a lot of their stock. Triangular Eyes and the others urgently needed such big customers, because a dozen of them could help them sell all the goods they had in stock. Once all the goods were sold, they would be able to earn enough money to last them a lifetime. At that time, they would be able to find a place to live in peace. Or at that time, he could run a nightclub and make money. He wouldn't have to be so worried like now. Because of this, Triangle Eyes wouldn't let go of Han Yen. Compared to spending a few years to sell the goods, it would be faster to find a rich person to dump them. Perhaps in less than a year, they would be able to clear their name. "How much of the stuff from yesterday do you have?" When Han Yen saw Triangle Eyes, she said directly, "I have money. Don't worry. As long as your stuff is pure enough, you can have as much as you want." Today, Han Yen brought a big Louis Vuitton bag. She put it on the table, opened it, and took out 15 stacks. "I want 10 of those blue goods from yesterday." Han Yen's eyes flashed. It was simple. She remembered the feeling she had yesterday, which made her want to die. So, at that moment, her attitude was sincere. "Ha, good stuff is good stuff. You get what you pay for. You know what's good." Triangle Eyes smiled, "But, I reminded you that blue ice is too strong. It's dangerous to overdose." "Beauty, you just bought a pack yesterday. Did you use it up so quickly?" Han Yen frowned. "Just tell me if you want to sell it or not. As long as I have money, why do you care how I use it up?" "I'm just concerned," Triangle Eyes said, "nothing else." "Thank you so much for your concern. You don't have to. I don't plan to die on this, so I won't overdose." Han Yen said, "I have my reasons for wanting so much. Brother, didn't you say we were friends yesterday? You won't sell me this little stuff? What kind of friend is that?" Triangle Eyes shook his head. "Haha, it's not that I don't want to sell it. It's just that these high-end goods are so expensive that not many people can afford them. So, I don't have that many with me." "You don't even have 10? Han Yen said unhappily, "Then why are you doing business?" "I have 10. But I don't have that many," Triangle Eyes said, "and this blue ice hasn't been sold on Qingdao yet. I've always focused on Magoo. If my blue ice starts to sell on a large scale, Magoo won't be easy to sell. You know, these days, everyone has the same idea. It's better to eat a peach than to eat a basket of rotten apricots." Han Yen was shocked. Obviously, after she came into contact with blue ice, Magoo wasn't as attractive to her as it was before. "Then you can only do blue ice business," Han Yen said. Triangle Eyes thought he wanted to, but he had a limited amount of blue ice. He had a lot of Magoo. He had to get rid of a lot of Magoo before selling the blue ice. That way, he could ensure he didn't have to keep all of Magoo in his hands. Although he could definitely sell it, it wasn't a normal item. The taste of keeping it in stock was scary. Of course, Triangle Eyes didn't want to hold back the goods for 3 months. He would have to keep his head on his pants for 3 months. Blue ice is very rare. It's very difficult to get it into the mainland. Triangle Eyes said, "Although it's rare, if I only do this business, I won't have enough money to eat. So, I only do this for friends." Han Yen frowned. "How much are you willing to sell to me?" "I already invited you to try it yesterday. I also sold you one." You want it again today. That's too frequent. Triangle Eyes stated his purpose. If you can get Magoo from me, I can sell you more blue ice. But if you only want to buy blue ice, I'm in a difficult position. Han Yen heard this and thought it was exactly what she wanted. You want me to buy more Magoo from you? Then you'll sell it to me, right? Han Yen said. Okay. Tell me, how many Magoo do I have to buy before you'll sell it to me? If you buy 20 Magoo, I can sell you 1 pack of blue ice. Triangle Eyes was asking for too much. 20? Han Yen was shocked. If I want 10 grams of blue ice, I have to buy 200 Magoo. Triangle Eyes wanted to use this method to sell his goods to the rich as soon as possible. Triangular Eyes nodded. That's not too much, is it? We're friends, so I'm telling you. This kind of blue ice is very popular. Even if I say 50 pieces for 1 gram of blue ice, people will agree without hesitation. But if I want so much Magoo, where should I put it? Han Yen said, what if I get investigated? If I take so much, it won't be as simple as taking drugs. I'll be sentenced. Beauty, you didn't take that pack of blue ice back yesterday for yourself, did you? Triangular Eyes smiled. I know, you want so much this time, you definitely don't want to use it for yourself, so. My conditions aren't high. Think about it carefully. If it's possible, we can cooperate. Han Yen-er's breathing became rapid. She was nervous because Triangle Eyes was paving the way for her performance the next day. So, how could Han Yen-er not be nervous? But I don't have that much money today, Han Yen-er said. With our current relationship, you won't give me credit. In our business, there is no credit. Triangle Eyes smiled. It's okay if you don't have that much money. I don't have that much blue ice either. If you want, buy some Magoo today and I'll let you bring 1 pack of blue ice. If you want a lot, I'm afraid we'll have to set another date. Tomorrow? Han Yen-er looked at Triangle Eyes. Triangle Eyes smiled but didn't say anything. Han Yen-er didn't dare to ask more. She impatiently patted the money. Then sell me whatever you can today. I'm in a hurry, so I have to leave now. Okay. Of course, Triangle Eyes didn't take that much money. He sold Han Yen-er 10 Magoo and 1 pack of blue ice to give Han Yen-er some benefits. He seemed to realize that Han Yen-er had taken the bait. That way, Han Yen-er's money would be easy to get. Chapter 3468. However, the person who took the bait today wasn't Han Yen-er, but Triangle Eyes. Triangle Eyes had been smart all his life, but stupid this time. Due to the pressure of selling the batch of goods in his hands as soon as possible, Triangle Eyes had taken the wrong path from the beginning. He wanted to sell the goods as soon as possible, which led to this mistake. Anyone who stumbled would stumble when they were most confident. Triangle Eyes trusted Han Yen-er from the beginning. If it wasn't Han Yen-er, he would have noticed any other undercover police. He was very confident in his intuition, which he had cultivated over the years. This kind of confidence was indeed not blind confidence of the triangular-eyed, but the experience he had gained over the years on this path. These experiences had never disappointed Triangular-eyed, which was why Triangular-eyed trusted these experiences. Han Yen-er was Triangle Eyes' favorite type of customer when he came to Qingdao this time. That was why he couldn't wait to carry out his first large-scale dumping at a high retail price. As long as he succeeded this time, it meant this method was feasible. Triangle Eyes could quickly learn from this transaction, and it would be much easier to find such customers in the future. Triangle Eyes treated Han Yen-er as his experimental subject, so he spent most of his time on how to use her. That was why he didn't guard against Han Yen-er. If Triangle Eyes hadn't treated Han Yen-er as a target in the beginning, he wouldn't have fallen into her trap so quickly. Triangle Eyes' subordinate saw Han Yen-er take the goods and leave. He walked to Triangle Eyes and asked, "Boss, is this woman trustworthy? Things are going so smoothly, which makes me feel uneasy." "You've been with me for so many years," Triangle Eyes said. "That's good. You should be suspicious and cautious. It's better to be safe than sorry. But this time, I believe that if this woman was sent by the police to fish, she wouldn't touch blue ice. No one who touches blue ice will have a good death. Spies are also human. They will think for themselves. People who ruin their lives for a case only exist in stories. The triangular-eyed man laughed after he finished speaking. He believed that this was his trump card to test anyone. At least in his many years in this business, Triangle Eyes had never met a spy who dared to touch blue ice. Because of this, Triangle Eyes had completely fallen for Han Yen-er. It could be said that without Han Yen-er, Triangle Eyes' flaws and evidence would be hard to find. He was too good at reading people. But he could never imagine that a girl who had been addicted to drugs for 2 years would work for the police. However, Han Yen-er didn't work for the police. Everything she did was for Su-yun. Without Su-yun, she wouldn't cooperate with the police. Boss, you're so wise. As long as we follow you, we won't make any mistakes. It's good that you know. Follow me and do your job well. We have to take it one step at a time. This is the only way to ensure a better life. The triangular-eyed man narrowed his eyes and revealed a smile. As long as this matter is successful, we will soon be able to sell out our stockpile. At that time, we will definitely not treat any of you unfairly. Boss, are we going to stop after dealing with this batch of goods? Triangle Eyes was silent for a moment. In the end, he took a deep breath and nodded. You all know how severe the crackdown is now. I don't need to tell you. It was already a narrow escape for us to escape to Qingdao. I don't want to fall and lose myself in the end. But, if we don't do this, we can't make money faster than this. His men didn't seem to be satisfied. As long as this batch of goods can be sold safely, I promise you will get 3 million. Triangle Eyes said, Don't be too greedy. Think about it. What kind of job can you do to make 3 million? Working in a factory? Doing business in a small company? It's hard for you to earn 3 million easily in any profession. You and I just need to work hard for another year. With this money, you can go anywhere and start a small business. Then, you'll be able to live a carefree life for the rest of your life. Triangle Eyes was very generous to promise so much money to his men. Of course, in the end, he would get at least tens of millions. Because he felt that after working hard for so many years, he didn't want to do anything other than take tens of millions for retirement. 3 million was indeed a lot to ordinary people, but the triangular-eyed lackey wasn't particularly satisfied with this number. This was because it indeed sounded like a large sum, but in today's society, 3 million was simply not enough to support spending. Even in some small cities outside the third tier, a house and a car cost at least 1 million. If they wanted to live a luxurious life, 30 to 50,000 was not enough to spend in a month. So this money was not much in the eyes of these people. After all, they had already developed the habit of spending money in these years. Every person who ate, drank, and played every day would spend at least 1,000 yuan. Triangle Eyes never mistreated his subordinates, because he knew that they would only follow him loyally if he didn't mistreat them. They would only be loyal to him if they ate, drank, and played happily by his side. They wouldn't betray him. His men's appetites were already big. It seemed that Triangle Eyes' promise of 3 million could no longer be hidden from them. Not to mention 3 million, even if it was 5 million, these people could squander it all in 5 years. But now, even if these men were disappointed, they wouldn't say it to Triangle Eyes. After all, they didn't have that much money in their hands. They would wait until the goods were almost sold out, then they would make other requests. As for these potential threats, Triangle Eyes was never worried about them. It was because he trusted his men too much. For so many years, no one had betrayed him, which made him arrogant. This arrogant habit made Triangle Eyes believe that no one would dare to refute his words. But now, he didn't have the chance to wait until the day his men betrayed him. With Han Yen-er's help, he had completely fallen into Su-yun's trap. Now, he only needed to take one more step, and Su-yun would be able to wrap it up. Han Yen-er gave the goods to Su-yun immediately. Su-yun realized that everything was going smoothly. When he told Chen Wei about the current situation, Chen Wei was very excited. He had lured Triangle Eyes out without any danger. It was too smooth. The operation that was originally planned to start on the third day didn't start immediately. After all, Han Yen bought a lot of drugs on the second day, so Chen Wei decided to wait for a day. On this day, the police prepared enough cash, which was enough for Han Yen to sell a lot of drugs. Han Yen didn't show up on the third day, which also whetted Triangle Eye's appetite. On the fourth day, Chen Wei still told Su Yun to wait a little longer. Sometimes, it was good to let the other party feel that they were not close, but not close. Triangle Eyes was indeed worried when he didn't see Han Yen on the fourth day. After all, no one could guarantee that a drug addict would live to see the sun the next day. Plus, if Han Yen found a more suitable source, she would give him up without hesitation. Triangle Eyes was disappointed when he had hope. He was worried that Han Yen would never show up in front of him again. If this opportunity to sell a lot of drugs disappeared, he didn't know when the next time would be. So, on the fourth night, Triangle Eyes was in a very bad mood. He was very emotional when he did things. His subordinates were also a little scared. Everyone had fear on their faces. On the fourth night, the bar didn't close until 4 in the morning. After Leader Tu and Xiao Lu, who were in charge of monitoring, reported the situation, Chen Wei knew that Triangle Eyes was anxious. When Triangle Eyes was anxious, Han Yen-er's appearance would give him the illusion that he had seized the opportunity. That way, it would be easier to make the deal. Chen Wei called Su Yun to meet up and told Su Yun that it was time for Han Yen-er to make the final preparations. He and Lin Ge could get into character, and their plan B could be implemented. Su Yun smiled and said, "I can't wait." Chapter 3469. The main event of the day started from that restaurant. The moment Su Yun and Lin Ge entered the restaurant, the owner recognized them. After all, there were fewer and fewer young people craving for alcohol these days. Basically, those who could drink a bottle of white wine and a pack of beer with 2 people could be considered to have a good alcohol tolerance. A tolerance of more than 8 ounces was enough to handle most of the drinking parties. If one could drink 1.5 caddies, then almost 90% of the dinners would be torturing others. The 2 young people who could drink 1.5 caddies of white wine became the topic of discussion in the restaurant that day. Whenever someone wanted to drink Kong House's wine, the restaurant owner would take out the wine and tell them, "This wine is absolutely delicious." That day, 2 young people drank a box of it at my place. Of course, most people didn't believe this. If there were 10 people drinking at a table, perhaps 1 box would be enough. 2 people drinking a box? How was that possible? Those who heard this felt that it wasn't reliable. They obviously thought that the owner was helping Kong House's wine promote. Fortunately, the wine was not bad, so no one was disgusted. "Come on. Let's copy those specialties from your restaurant. 8 boxes at Fu Fu." After Su Yun entered, he started to call out. This was mainly to get the whistle of the disguised waiter in the restaurant. As expected, his shouting immediately attracted the female suspect. Lin Ge took out a box of cigarettes and handed one to Su Yun. He lit one for himself and said, "Brother, let's not compete in drinking today, okay? Your alcohol tolerance is good. I can't compare. After we finish eating, let's go over there and get some foreign wine to drink. Don't drink so much white wine. What's so good about the foreign wine in the bar? It's far inferior to our white wine. Our white wine is soft and smooth. What is that foreign wine? It's pungent and choking. What kind of taste is that?" Su Yun said. Lin Ge laughed. "Good foreign wine isn't that pungent. I'm talking about the same price. How much does this Fu Fu for 8 years cost?" "It's less than 100 yuan a bottle." Su Yun said, "Can those foreign wines that cost less than 100 yuan be drunk?" Whether it was real or not, there was a problem. Just opening a bottle of XO would cost more than 1,000. It's not very cost-effective. It's better to drink more here. If you don't drink enough and want to drink some foreign wine, I'll accompany you. Aren't we going to the bar to see if there are any pretty girls there? Our brains are all muddled after drinking a whole box. We won't even know how to pick up girls if we meet one, Lingu said. Soo-yoon waved his hand disapprovingly. It's not like we haven't been to that bar before. There aren't any girls there. To be honest, it's the most boring bar I've ever been to. There's nothing fun about it. Ha ha ha, brother, we didn't meet her last time, but that doesn't mean we won't meet her this time. Maybe we'll meet her this time, Lingu said. Bro, it's not that hard to find girls these days. If you want to play, we can just make a phone call. Moreover, it can be very exciting. Do you have to go to a bar to ask her out? Soo-yoon shook his head. At this time, the female suspect was listening at the side. Soo-yoon suddenly glanced at her. What are you waiting for? Didn't I say it? Special dishes and a box of fuba. Yes, yes, yes. The female suspect was stunned for a moment. She quickly turned around and went to do her work. She was obviously led into Soo-yoon and Lin Ji-e's rhythm just now. She wanted to listen to what they had to say, so she forgot her own identity. However, she didn't have any doubts about Soo-yoon and Lin Gu now. Soon, Soo-yoon and Lin Ji-e's food was served. The two started drinking. They drank until it was almost 10 o'clock at night. The 6 bottles of wine were almost finished. At this time, Group Leader 2 and Xiao Lu appeared. The two of them ran into the restaurant looking travel-worn. Waiter! Hurry up, come, order. Xiao Lu waved and shouted. At this time, most of the people eating in the restaurant were leaving. After all, it wasn't a hot summer day. There were still people coming out to eat supper at 10 o'clock at night. At this temperature in Qingdao, it was more lively when the restaurant closed at 11 o'clock. Now, in this restaurant, other than Soo-yoon and Lin Gu, there were only 3 tables left. I'm sorry, our chef is preparing to get off work. The female suspect came forward and said, What do you mean? You're opening the door and not doing business? Are you kidding me? Xiao Lu said, Preparing to get off work means that you're not off work yet. You don't even serve customers. I think you don't want to work anymore? When the restaurant owner heard this, he quickly came to smooth things over. You can order whatever you want to eat. Ha ha ha, order whatever you want. Group Leader 2 also showed an unhappy expression. That's more like it. Yes, yes, yes. Sour and spicy shredded potatoes, spicy fried clams, century egg tofu, vinegar peanuts. Xiao Lu ordered the dishes skillfully. This was indeed the most common menu when he and Group Leader 2 ate outside. It was cheap and rich. There were vegetables, seafood, eggs, and alcohol. 2 packs of Shuoshan beer from the 5 factories. When it came to ordering beer, it sounded more professional. Although Qingdao was most famous for its beer, and Shuoshan beer was also a type of beer, the people of Qingdao drank more Shuoshan beer than Qingdao beer. Needless to say, the reason was obvious. The price was affordable. As for the choice of the factory, it might be because the people of Qingdao were more particular about the taste of beer. Because Germany occupied Qingdao in the past, the people of Qingdao were introduced to beer very early. This made them more sensitive to the taste of beer, and they could taste the difference between different beers almost immediately. This was the conclusion of thousands of people over the past 100 years. Although Qingdao beer wanted to unify the taste of beer as soon as possible, the quality of each factory's beer was different. Of course, this phenomenon was not only limited to Qingdao beer. Even Budweiser, Yanjing, etc., had this difference. Heineken was probably the one who had the best control over the taste of beer, but the price was indeed a little high. Of course, Qingdao's local breweries' brewing standards and beer quality were higher than overseas breweries, but there were differences between the local breweries. The number 1 factory was definitely the best, and their beers were all high-end, such as Auguste, Classic 1903, and small green and brown bottles. The number 1 factory's beer quality was good, but the price was also high. The people of Qingdao drank beer in packs, and the smallest pack was 6 bottles. That's why the drinking capacity of beer was high. If they drank August, it would cost a lot, and the working class could not afford it. Shuoshan beer, which cost 2 to 3 RMB per bottle, was the most affordable. At this time, the number 5 factory's Shuoshan beer jumped out. It was delicious, and almost everyone in Qingdao felt it was better than the number 2 factories. That was because the number 2 factory's beer had a higher alcohol content, and it was easy to get intoxicated after drinking it. This was a problem that had not been solved after the construction of the factory. The reason why the alcohol would go to the head easily was because of the high alcohol content in the alcohol. It was said that the fermenter of the second factory had a capacity of 600 tons, which was too big. Therefore, the internal convection formed in the alcohol industry would hinder the settling of the yeast. It was easy to cause the yeast to dissolve and release some substances. Of course, many people wanted the number 5 factory's Shuoshan beer because it was close to Shuoshan. In fact, even if it was close, they would not use the spring water from Shuoshan. They would use tap water, so it did not matter. Team Leader Tu and Xiao Lu played the roles of the 2 old Qingdao natives. They opened the beer as soon as it was served and started to quench their thirst. The whole bottle was quickly emptied. After the 2 of them finished drinking, they started to pick a fight. Xiao Lu stood up and shouted impatiently, with an expression that said, "Why did you take so long to serve the dishes? I'm almost out of beer. What kind of food is this?" This kind of person, to put it bluntly, was a typical person who deserved a beating. Xiao Lu was usually against this kind of person, but today, his task was to play this kind of person. He felt helpless, but now he had no choice but to play the rascal. "Boss, come here. Tell me what to do." Xiao Lu was still unwilling to give up. "What kind of beer is this?" Sorry. The owner of the small restaurant did not know what was going on today. As a businessman, he knew how to greet people with a smile. Even if he was facing a rascal, he had to greet them with a smile. "This bottle of beer is my treat. Please wait for a while. The food will be ready soon. I'll ask someone to hurry it up." Chapter 3470. Who cares about your lousy beer? Xiao Lu slammed the table. "I asked you to serve the dishes quickly." The boss was speechless when he saw how unreasonable Xiao Lu was. Even if you want to cook, you need time in the kitchen. It's impossible to serve the dishes as soon as the menu is served. It's not scientific. Are you a professor or an expert? Are you telling me about science? Xiao Lu laughed disdainfully. A scientist, right? Chang'e 8 was developed by you? Or the space rocket 15 was developed by you? It's still scientific. This kind of typical scoundrel existed in real life, so Xiao Lu's behavior didn't arouse anyone's suspicion. "I'm really sorry." I'm sorry. Is this okay?" The restaurant boss said, "I'll add another dish for you. Let's have a fried clam with chives, okay?" Xiao Lu glared at the restaurant boss. His words had to be expressed on the spot. After all, he didn't know what the boss was talking about, so his reaction had to be fast. "What do you mean? Are you looking down on me for ordering too cheap? Look, the fried clams are only worth 15 yuan, right? You're giving me a fried clam, and the dishes are more expensive than what I ordered. Who are you trying to fool?" Xiao Lu reacted quickly because he felt the same way. Because he and Brother Tu liked to eat at street stalls in summer, they ordered very cheap dishes. Sometimes, they would just order a clam, a peanut, and then drink draft beer. They had met a snobbish boss who saw that they ordered cheap dishes, so he felt that it was a waste for them to occupy a table. He insinuated insinuations and chased them away. He even sneered at them and said, "You've come to my place to eat dozens of plates of peanuts. Should I add another dish for you to express my gratitude? Add a steamed plate of crab shells." That time, Xiao Lu was quite unhappy. He didn't expect to be despised for eating a little more frugally. After all, their salary wasn't much. They couldn't be willing to spend hundreds of yuan every time. Therefore, Xiao Lu transferred the situation from that time to today. This anger was more realistic. I didn't mean anything else. I really didn't mean anything else. The restaurant boss hurriedly waved his hand. What do you mean you didn't mean anything else? I think that's what you meant. If you don't make things clear today, be careful that I don't destroy your shop. Xiao Lu glared. Su Yun glanced at Lin Gu, indicating that he could begin. Because Lin Gu was also a rather impulsive person, and he had never met Xiao Lu before, Xiao Lu had a certain amount of respect for Su Yun. Therefore, if Su Yun and Xiao Lu clashed, Xiao Lu might not be able to perform well. But when Lin Gu argued with him, it would be even more realistic. If Lin Gu spoke harshly, little Lu would naturally be able to keep up with him. You don't speak human language after drinking a bottle of piss. Lin Gu suddenly spoke. They were sitting next to each other, and they were eating in the hall, so they could hear each other clearly. I hate some people the most. They don't pretend to be anything when they go out. What kind of society is this? Why are they pretending? The more King useless trash, the more they like to pretend to be something when they are outside. What is this called? This is called ugly people causing trouble. Brother, am I right? Lin Ji's words were really enough. Su Yun smiled bitterly and nodded. If Xiao Lu wasn't pretending and was really a pretentious master, he would probably be humiliated to tears by Lin Gu. Who are you mumbling about? Xiao Lu stood up immediately. What do you mean? What did you just say? Do you dare to say it again? Are you deaf? Can't you hear what I said? Lin Ji's attitude was quite firm. What do you want? Don't. Please calm down. The boss panicked when he saw the situation. If they really made a scene, he would be the unlucky one. The female suspect was also a little nervous about the current situation. But at this time, it was already the trigger point. Team Leader 2 secretly gave Xiao Lu a look, and Su Yun also revealed an imperceptible smile. Xiao Lu smashed the bottle in his hand. Lin Gu pushed the boss away and directly confronted Xiao Lu. The two of them instantly started fighting. The restaurant was in a panic. The other customers were also scared when they saw the situation. They all hid. Young people nowadays didn't care about the consequences. If someone died, it would be troublesome. Not only did the two of them cause the other customers to leave, but they also flipped the tables. Once the situation happened in the restaurant, the people in the bar immediately contacted the female suspect who was the whistle. They also reported the situation. Drinking and causing trouble was something that many restaurants couldn't avoid. The female suspect was also quite helpless. After all, her identity was a waitress. These people messed up the scene. She still had to clean it up later. Soon, Xiao Lu and Team Leader 2 were subdued by Su Yun and Lin Gu. They sat on the ground and didn't dare to fight anymore. They begged for mercy. Lin Gu still pretended to be angry. Su Yun quickly threw the money to the boss and pulled him away. Let's go. Out of sight, out of mind. If you didn't drink enough, let's go to the bar over there and continue drinking. Don't lower yourself to their level. Listen to me clearly. I'm not someone you can mess with. If you dare to fight with me, I'll remember the two of you. I'll teach you a lesson every time I see you in the future. Lin Gu was still very angry before he left. After the two of them walked out while cursing, they went straight to the bar. The people in the bar immediately called the woman. The woman said that the two who went out beat up the two inside. The two who went out looked like they had someone behind them. They were quite ruthless. In order to make the act realistic enough and not expose any flaws, Team Leader 2 and Xiao Lu took the initiative to mention that if they really fought, they must make them bleed. Otherwise, the other party would definitely be suspicious. Things like making a scene had to be realistic. Otherwise, it would be better not to take this step. Therefore, Team Leader 2 and Xiao Lu suffered a little today. They were beaten up until their mouths and noses bled. At this time, the boss had already started to ask her to clean up. She didn't say anything else and hurriedly hung up the phone. I'll stop talking now. I have to clean up the scene. It's a mess. Don't call me for a while in case my boss suspects me. Okay. After hanging up the phone, the disguised waitress appeared in front of Team Leader 2 and Xiao Lu again. She still had to continue pretending. Aya, the two of you should go to the hospital quickly. You're bleeding. The boss also hoped that these people would leave quickly. Although the shop was damaged, it wasn't worth much. If the people who were beaten up were unhappy and vented their anger on him, it wouldn't be good. The two of you, I'm really, really sorry that this happened. But this isn't what I wanted. The boss was a little scared. The two of you should go to the hospital quickly. I'll pretend that nothing happened here. Really, I won't call the police. I'll pretend that nothing happened. I promise. At this time, Xiao Lu suddenly made a move. He turned over at lightning speed and directly pinned the female suspect down. He conveniently took a piece of cloth and stuffed the female suspect's mouth. This woman's hands and feet were handcuffed behind her back. When this woman completely lost her ability to move and speak, Xiao Lu finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, this scene completely frightened the boss. What kind of people are they? They actually handcuffed her. This is too crazy. Boss, I'm sorry. Team Leader 2 went forward and patted the boss's shoulder. He shook hands and said, "We were just acting just now. Because we have an important mission tonight, and the waitress in your shop is a very important suspect, we had to disturb you. Sorry to trouble you. I'm from our city's criminal investigation team. My surname is Tuesday. I'm sorry again. I'm really sorry. We'll bear all your losses. Please forgive us." The boss of the restaurant was completely confused. Why did they suddenly jump to the criminal investigation team? What is going on? She's my waitress. What crime did she commit? You can't arrest people for no reason. Team Leader 2 smiled embarrassedly. We won't arrest people for no reason. It's just that we can't say anything about our mission now. And now, we need your cooperation, as well as the cooperation of everyone in your shop. At this time, the police had already come in from the back door of the restaurant. They took the chef and the others into custody. Now, everyone had to cooperate with the police. When the boss saw the fully armed criminal police and the special police team, he was dumbfounded. Wasn't this a little too big? What kind of dangerous criminal was this? Thinking of this, he broke out in a cold sweat. He couldn't help but glance at his waitress. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Chapter 3471. Because this mission was too dangerous, drug dealers like the other party were likely to carry guns or even very heavy firepower, so the police sent out well-equipped special police. However, due to the special nature of this mission, the SWAT team only used ordinary vehicles to transport the SWAT soldiers under the cover of the sky. They didn't drive their SWAT vehicles over with great fanfare. Although there used to be some lazy guys in the SWAT team, they were all kicked out after Chen Wei's arrival. Among all the forces in the entire police force, the special police team was the most forbidden team. This was a team that had to wrestle with the most evil forces. In the past few years, special police officers were treated better than ordinary police officers. They had a lot of money, and all kinds of subsidies were higher than ordinary police officers. Because they were faced with dangerous situations, some people who relied on various kinds of connections to sneak in just for good treatment. They didn't really go out on missions. This situation was much better now. At least when the special police team appeared in front of this ordinary boss, the boss was very shocked. This are all real guns. Oh my God, what did she do? The boss's face was pale. Will we be in danger if we stay here? Team Leader 2 comforted the restaurant boss. Don't worry, boss, there are so many special police comrades here. They will never let you and your staff be in danger. The real dangerous criminals are in the bar over there. Our comrades will deal with them tonight. You will definitely be safe if you stay here with us. It will be dangerous if you and your staff leave now, because they will definitely pay attention to this place. Your waiter is one of them. She hasn't been here for long. She came because this bar opened, right? Does she not care about the salary at all? Xiao Lu said, because she is the spy of their drug gang. She is in your restaurant to keep a lookout for their small gang. Oh my God. The restaurant boss was completely stunned. Just now, the police comrades said it was a drug gang. Oh my God. This is really too big. The boss quickly nodded and said, we will cooperate, we will cooperate. We will cooperate. We deliberately caused trouble in your restaurant so that we can catch her without being suspected by the other party, Team Leader 2 said. Team Leader 2 said, she has already informed her accomplices about this matter. She said that something happened here and she has to stay to clean it up. This gives our staff enough time. The boss nodded vigorously and replied, Then is there anything you need me to do? If it's possible, after the two of us leave here in a sorry state, you can stand at the door and take a look at us leaving. After that, you can smoke a cigarette and pretend to give an order inside the house. Just say something as simple as no one is leaving until the work is done. Team Leader 2 said, we don't want those criminals to realize that the people they arranged here are being controlled by the police. The boss obviously didn't dare to neglect this kind of thing. He was particularly serious. I definitely won't let you down. Please rest assured that I'll do a good job. Thank you. Team Leader 2 shook hands with the boss gratefully. Then, Team Leader 2 and Xiao Lu helped each other out and got into the car while cursing. Then, they left awkwardly. At this time, Su Yun and Lin Gu had already entered the bar. The eyes at the bar entrance were attracted by Team Leader 2 and Xiao Lu again. After the two drove away awkwardly, the boss of the restaurant stepped forward bravely. He walked out of the door and lit a cigarette. Then, he noticed that there were really people looking at him from the corner of his eyes. To be honest, he was a little nervous at this moment. However, if he couldn't do what he promised, wouldn't it be very embarrassing? The men of Qingdao weren't so cowardly. You guys clean up well. If you don't do it well, no one is leaving today. We still have business tomorrow. The boss yelled at his restaurant and then continued to curse. So King unlucky. It was hard to tell if the last curse was just a disguise to add to the drama or if it was a true display of emotions. However, even if it was a true display of emotions, it was normal. At this time, it was understandable for anyone to curse. The boss of the restaurant muttered something to himself many times after smoking the cigarette. They were all words of complaint. As for what he said, no one knew. After Su Yun and Lin Gu came to the bar, they were also in a bad mood. Su Yun immediately ordered alcohol. The two clinked a few glasses in succession. At this time, Lin Ji's mood was a lot better. In this society, there are really all kinds of people. It's fine if those who have some money pretend to be rich, but these people who don't have money also come out to pretend. Brother, let me tell you, I hate these people the most. I will definitely beat them up when I see them. After Lin Gu finished speaking, he picked up his glass and left. Huaxia is too big. There are too many people. Naturally, there are all kinds of people. Su Yun, you don't have to pay attention to those people. It's meaningless. It doesn't matter if these people don't pretend in front of me, but I can't stand it if they pretend in front of me. What kind of people are they? Lin Gu said, I have 100 times more spare money than them. But I'm not as pretentious as them. Do they dare to play with me? I'll play them to death. Su Yun laughed. That's right. Who doesn't know your ability in Qingdao, Brother Lin? It's really the blood of 18 generations of their ancestors that they met you today. Brother, it's also because of you today. I don't want to spoil my mood because of them. Otherwise, if they dare to fight back against me, I will definitely call a few people over to chop off their arms. Lin Gu continued drinking. Come. Brother, let's have a good drink. This game of buying horses that you brought me to play is really good. I earned 60,000 this afternoon. Ha ha ha, I want to continue playing this game in the future. Brother, you have to help me. That's for sure. If there's money, let's earn it together. We'll just buy from others. It definitely won't go wrong. Su-Yun, let's find a chance to buy a big one. Let's pool the money together and make a big number. We can earn a few million at once. Brother, as long as you think it's stable, I'll follow you. Lin Gu said. Even now, Su-Yun was still a person who tricked Lin Gu into playing that kind of unreliable scam with him. As long as Lin Gu played big, he would definitely lose everything. Letting him earn 60,000 this time was completely a bait. First, he would get something sweet, then he would scam something ruthless. No problem. Then you can raise some money during this time. You can raise 5 million, right? Su-Yun, I'll also raise 5 million. Let's play a big game together. We can earn at least 4 million. As long as you believe in me, I definitely won't shortchange you. In the eyes of outsiders, Lin Gu was a guy who fell into Su-Yun's trap. People nowadays were very indifferent. No one would stop them just because they saw this. After all, the trouble fell on other people, and it had nothing to do with them. Of course, just like last time, the triangular-eyed people didn't have any doubts about Su-Yun and Lin Gu. They didn't think these two people would cause them any trouble. They were just two outsiders who came to drink a little. But today, these two outsiders had other things to do. The triangular-eyed people were obviously emotional these days. Han Yen-er's disappearance made him feel very disappointed. In this state, the whole bar seemed to be depressed. Although the other business here was the same as usual, and there were no other changes, the triangular-eyed people couldn't be satisfied. The speed of the delivery was too slow for him. He couldn't afford to wait. He didn't want to continue wasting time like this. Today, Han Yen-er wouldn't let him down. Seeing that Su-Yun and Lin Gu had been drinking in the bar for an hour, Han Yen-er finally walked out of the hotel and set foot on the road to the bar. Tonight was very important. Han Yen-er knew very well what it meant to her, so she was very well prepared. Chapter 3472. When Han Yen-er's car stopped in front of the bar, the man at the door ran in to find Triangle Eyes. When the man hurried past Su-Yun and Lin Gu, Su-Yun knew it was Han Yen-er. Boss. That girl is here again. He's here. His underling's tone made Triangle Eyes break out in a cold sweat. Can you be more careful in the future? Don't make a fuss. Otherwise, I would have thought someone was dead. Triangle Eyes shouted angrily. But then he couldn't sit still anymore. He immediately went out to greet her. No matter what, Han Yen-er was his first big client since he came to Qingdao. No matter what industry people were in, they would treat rich people differently than ordinary people. No one would say no to money. It was that simple. When Triangle Eyes walked out of the back room, Han Yen-er also entered the bar. When Triangle Eyes saw Han Yen-er and was about to greet her, Su-Yun suddenly shouted, "Hey, what a coincidence to meet you here. Come and have a drink." Su-Yun said as he stood up and waved his hand. Han Yen-er was dazed and her eyes flashed. At this time, Lin Gu also said, "How can we meet an acquaintance here? Beauty, we haven't hung out for a while. How have you been? Are you free today? If you are, come and hang out with us." Triangle Eyes saw them greet each other, so he carefully stopped and didn't go forward. "Boss, what's going on?" The man didn't understand. "Do you want me to call her over and you can talk in the back?" "Wait a minute." Triangle Eyes was not in a hurry. Han Yen-er showed that she didn't want to talk to Su-Yun and Lin Gu. "I'm sorry, handsome. I don't have time today. Maybe another day when I have time." "Don't pretend with us. We all know who you are. Just tell us how much it is." Lin Gu patted the table. "Hang out with us. We won't treat you badly." "I really can't." Han Yen-er shook her head. Su-Yun was even more direct. He grabbed Han Yen-er's hand and said, "Why don't you sit down and have a drink? After all, we're all friends. It's not like we haven't played together before." What's there to be embarrassed about? Han Yen looked troubled. She didn't know how to refuse, so she let Su Yun and Lin Ge squeeze her between them. She couldn't get out. At this time, Lin Ge had already poured her a glass of wine. Come, have a drink first. I'm sorry, big brother. I drove today, so I can't drink. Han Yen quickly waved her hand. It's not a big deal. Just drink. This is Qingdao. The captain of the traffic police is my uncle-in-law. Don't you know that? If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. Lin Ge said impatiently, if you don't drink it, you're not giving us face. I really can't. Big brother, I really can't. Han Yen shook her head and waved her hand. Su Yun also knocked on the table with his wine glass. Beauty, I heard that you've been making money recently. Haha, are you looking down on us because you've made some money? When you were down and out, we took care of you a lot. You should be grateful. Big brother, I really don't mean anything else. I really can't today. Really? Han Yen said, how about tomorrow? Let's make an appointment today. I have time tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll spend some time with you too. Is that okay? At the end of her words, Han Yen was almost begging. At this time, Triangle Eyes whispered to his subordinate, go over and listen to what they're saying. Listen carefully. Okay. The subordinate nodded and quietly walked over. He found a place where he could hear them clearly. After all, there was music in the bar and it was noisy. Triangle Eyes could only vaguely see the shape of their mouths. He couldn't hear what they were saying. But from Han Yen-er's attitude and expression, Triangle Eyes could see that she seemed to want to avoid the two people, but she was also a little scared of them. Even though they were ferocious dragons that had crossed the river, they were still in a state of strangers on Guqin Island. Therefore, Triangle Eyes was very cautious in everything he did. He was even more careful when dealing with Su Yun and Lin Ge, who did not seem to be important figures. This was because anyone could be a deep-rooted, local bully. Triangular Eyes had also heard about the incident where the two of them had injured someone in the restaurant. Those who dared to swagger over to drink after injuring someone definitely had some background and weren't afraid of trouble at all. Therefore, Triangle Eyes wouldn't act rashly without knowing who they were. You're really arrogant. Haha, we've heard about what you did. You cheated a muddle-headed old man out of a lot of money, didn't you? Millions? Su Yun smiled and said, now that you have money, you don't take us seriously. Han Yen shook her head and said, I really didn't mean that. Okay, don't make so many excuses. I'll make it clear to you. I have some good stuff in my hands. Let's have some fun tonight. How about that? Lin Ge said, I'm good to you, aren't I? I always think of you when I have good stuff. Triangle Eye's subordinate heard this and opened his ears even wider. In his opinion, he heard a very important question. Brother, I beg you not to make it difficult for me today. We are all friends. I really have something to do. If I don't have something to do, I can't refuse your invitation, Han Yen said carefully. Lin Ge opened his eyes wide and looked at Su Yun in surprise. Brother, from what she means, TSK. I've made it so clear and she still doesn't agree. This means she doesn't lack anything to have fun with. What's going on? Sister, have you turned over a new leaf? Ha ha ha, I've never heard of anyone turning over a new leaf in your line of work. We are not lying to you. We really do have good stuff. Su Yun lowered his voice and said to Han Yen in a voice that was just barely audible to Triangle Eye's subordinate, a few days ago, a buddy went to the south and brought back some good stuff. You really don't want to try it? Han Yen was a little tempted. But it was only for a moment. She still insisted on refusing. Brother, if I don't have anything to do, I would definitely say yes. Don't you know what kind of person I am? But it's really not convenient for me today. If it's not convenient, then why did you come to the bar to drink? Lin Ge said, don't be ridiculous. Do you think we are fools? No, 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 of course I wouldn't dare. Han Yen shook her head. Then why did you come to the bar? Not to drink, but to steal a man? Or are you doing something shameful? Lin Gu continued to interrogate. Han Yen was so nervous that she couldn't answer. If you give us a reason, we won't make it difficult for you. Su Yun's face also became cold. He was a little unhappy. Otherwise, you are looking down on us. Humph, you don't really think you have a high status just because you swindled some money from that old man, do you? On the piano island, we have plenty of ways to make it difficult for you. Brother, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to look down on you. Han Yen explained. I'm here to pay back the money. Su Yun and Lin Gu both frowned. Pay back the money? I owed the owner of the bar some money because of something. I'm here today to pay back the money. Han Yen patted the bag in her arms. Because I ran into some trouble some time ago, I borrowed some money from the owner of the bar. I'm here to pay back the money. Oh, my sister, you borrowed money from a loan shark. Su Yun said. Who would believe that? We all heard that the story about the rich old man was fake. I went to the old man to get the money to pay back the money. Han Yen smiled bitterly. Brothers, please forgive me. I'm really sorry today. Why didn't you ask us when you borrowed money? We could have helped you more or less. Lin Gu said, you even borrowed money from loan sharks. You're really something. You're really bold. You're really something, my sister. Chapter 3473. Brother, don't laugh at me. I had no choice. If I had any other choice, I wouldn't have borrowed money from them. Han Yen shook her head helplessly. I really need to pay them back today. Otherwise, I won't be able to afford the interest. Su Yun smiled. Is the money you got from the old man enough for you to pay them back? Yes. Yes. Han Yen stuttered. I heard that the old man is about to die. If you pay them back, what are you going to do in the future? Do you want to continue in this business? Su Yun said, as long as you continue in this line of work, I'll take care of your business. Don't worry, it's your fault for being such a good service. Ha ha ha. We like people like you who can still let go of things. Han Yen nodded. Then I thank you in advance. Please take care of me in the future. It's nothing. Ha ha ha, for your future business, it's not too much to drink, right? Su Yun and Lin Gu both raised their glasses. Han Yen carefully refused. Brothers, I was really driving. The law is strict now. I don't want to trouble you to ask my uncle to help me. It's too troublesome. Okay, at least you understand. Lin Gu nodded. If you don't want to drink, then so be it. If you have time tomorrow night, let's make an appointment to find a place to drink and have some fun. Don't worry, since I said that I'll leave you some good stuff, I'll definitely leave it for you. But if you want to try the good stuff, there's a price to pay. Ha ha ha. Sis, you know that I love cosplay the most, 2D. Ha ha ha. No problem. Han Yen nodded hard. I'll cancel everything tomorrow and wait for your arrangement. Okay. That's good to hear. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Su Yun waved his hand. Han Yen felt like she had been pardoned. She quickly got up and bowed carefully. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you, brothers. I'll go now. Go. When the two of them let them go, Triangle Eye's lackey hurriedly ran to Triangle Eyes and told him everything he heard. Han Yen got up and walked out of the booth. She ordered a bottle of wine for Su Yun and Lin Gu, saying it was a small gift from her. She hoped they wouldn't be angry about what happened today. It was her treat. Su Yun and Lin Gu praised Han Yen's generosity. She hadn't followed the old man for nothing. Although some of the things she said weren't very nice, it was a fact that Han Yen was different from before. She was rich now. When Han Yen and Triangle Eyes met, Triangle Eyes understood the situation, but he pretended he didn't know anything. What was that situation just now? Are those two your friends? Triangle Eyes smiled. There are quite a lot of acquaintances. Han Yen wasn't as humble as she used to be in front of Triangle Eyes. She said, he was a client in the past. Kind of an acquaintance. Client. Triangle Eyes said, what client? Han Yen froze and said impatiently, nothing. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about us. Didn't you say last time that only Margot could take care of blue ice? I want more blue ice today. Let's talk. After that, Han Yen put the bag of cash on the table. I have money. I care about your goods. Beauty, we are friends, but your situation makes me a bit confused. I want to do business, but doing business with people I don't know can be dangerous. Triangle Eyes said, if we can't explain who those two are, we can't do business. Are you suspecting me? Han Yen froze. Triangle Eyes didn't answer her question directly. It's better to be safe than sorry. That's what I always say. Well, if you want to know, I won't hide it. Han Yen said, in fact, those two are like me. They also play this game. When I had no money, my job was to play with them. Oh. Triangle Eyes was shocked. You were an ice queen? Han Yen didn't answer, which meant she admitted it. You have a lot of experience. Triangle Eyes smiled. He had seen ice queens before, but he had never seen one so successful. I'm in this line of work. Han Yen laughed at herself. Otherwise, what do you think I can do when the goods are so expensive? Ha ha ha. That's true. But can you tell me who the old man they are talking about is? Triangle Eyes said and pointed to the bag of cash. An old man who can give you so much money is not an ordinary person. Han Yen looked unhappy. You were eavesdropping on us? Triangular Eye didn't deny it. He nodded and said generously, Beauty, I had no choice. I told you just now that my motto is to be careful, and to be safe. You came here to buy goods and suddenly met two men talking. Of course I would be worried. Han Yen rolled her eyes unhappily. Well, you have your reasons. I have nothing to say. In fact, there is no misunderstanding between us. I just want to be more careful. I hope you can understand. Triangle Eyes said, I have no doubts about you, but I don't trust them. Han Yen said, well, what do you want to know? You want to know about the old man, right? Well, I will tell you. The goods I got from you were not only used by me, but also by the old man. The old man was willing to give me money because I could bring him your goods. Triangle Eyes didn't expect her to be so direct. As for the two men, I can tell you in detail. They have some connections in Qingdao. The one on the left set up a powder mill a few years ago. He has a lot of connections with the cement factory and made a lot of money. Later, he set up a mixing station and made a lot of money. In recent years, the construction industry is not as prosperous as before. He sold his business and used his connections to take on some small projects. He is a rich man in Qingdao. Han Yen said, the one on the right has a strong family background. He has been doing some small projects. Because of his connections, he has been making money. They are all in this business, but they are not addicted. Every time they like to play with girls in our industry. It's just for the excitement. That's all I know. Is that enough? If you want to know more, I can't help you because I know nothing else. Triangle Eyes saw that Han Yen was sincere and didn't hesitate, so he didn't doubt her. After all, in the Huaxia years ago, anyone who was involved in construction and building materials made money. Some of them went on to make further investments after making money and started bigger businesses. However, there were also some who started to play after making a lot of money. They started to look for excitement. This was actually a kind of human psychology. After making money, they would spend it. When they had all kinds of material things, but didn't have a greater spiritual pursuit, it was easy to be led to some bad habits. Money was a good thing, but it was also a demon that made people crazy. The poor were used to saving money. Although they had been diligent and thrifty, they still lived an ordinary life. The people who made money spent more and more, but in the process, they learned how to make more money. To put it bluntly, these people who had bad habits were not ambitious enough. They felt that they had made enough money and had nowhere to spend it. As they saved more and more money, they got into bad habits. Some people also made money, but why didn't they get into bad habits? These people were ambitious and didn't think it was enough, because the more they made, the more they spent. Bungalows became buildings, buildings became villas, villas became villas. Cars became intermediate cars became advanced cars became luxury cars, and luxury cars became supercars. This kind of people who always had ambition and pursuit didn't get into bad habits. This was because their spirit had always been moving forward. Their thoughts had always been pursuing a higher, bigger, and better life. This not only existed in material things, but also in spirit and career. If they wanted to pursue better material things, they had to improve their career. They had to pursue higher spiritually, which could help them avoid going astray. So in this era, it was definitely a good thing to have ambition and pursuit on the legal road. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.